Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Lots of Gravity, Mitch Kennedy, Original D-Rose, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, JMails24, Unimento, M, Iron26, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKiernan, Retro Bill, More Books, Canna Bear, Bogey, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google while I spend the 35 seconds setting up for today's live show.
Yeah, I got two chats, Arctic 7 game and an Arctic 7, just Arctic 7. The game audio is the better audio. That's the one I use for like YouTube, and actually what I use for G+, right? Because it's part of the same app, right? Google Meet and like any browser is the same app.
So got everything settled there. Perfect.
Excellent, good to have you all. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
What up? Oh boy.
Distance to the sun. What would you need for that?
Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
Well, then we don't know the distance to the sun if you're going to assume you live on a globe with an R value that isn't obvious.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Again, you're going to need a globe, you're going to need an R value, and then you're going to need to get down there to see if that's actually happening.
Okay, well, is there any evidence that there's a sky vacuum, i.e. we can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container for the gas we're all breathing to press upon?
Well, there's evidence against it because we're talking, and if that was the case, we'd all be dead.
Yeah, you're going to need a container to demonstrate any of that. So, no.
Okay, well, I mean, I've heard that they say you can achieve gas go down, go boom, boom, creating homogeneous layers of gases pushing down on things on the Earth. So is there any scientific evidence of gravity?
Well, they have the upward rising Earthers. They seem
No,
to
they
have.
don't.
We haven't had any of those.
That's not gravity.
Hold on, we haven't had any of those yet. So I appreciate that there's people out on the circuit that are talking about Flat Earth Society concepts of Earth flying up, right? But a bit like when ether was being punted and they weren't here proactively putting it in our face. So what? Like ghost believers or Bigfoot believers. So what? You live and let live. If people want to be out there punting the notion that Earth rises up at 9.8 meters per second, then fine. But proactively, we're going to chase the globe lie. That's the main rhetoric of the Western world. So why chase after upward bias or ether or any of this stupid
It's
nonsense?
not chasing. It's not chasing.
Not here, though, is it?
Dealing with things. It's dealing with things.
Right, I was just having a little
calling
fit.
you a shill.
You okay, Arwin? Did you have a little breakdown there, or what was that all about?
That's just because people endlessly need to whine about it.
Yeah. What's to moan about? If they're not in your face telling you that you need to believe Earth's moving up, who cares? Literally, who cares?
So you wait for everybody to line up and start calling you a scammer and everything else. You're going to wait for that to happen again, or you're going to listen to me and Brian and deal with things? Don't wait for them to come here.
Well, maybe
Put
you
out
should
word out
listen
That's the
to
show.
what I actually talk about on my show.
Everyone calm down. It's just
today
hello,
again for
Neil.
an hour
Hello.
straight.
Just Neil
An
and
hour
Arwin.
straight.
Oh my God, Arwin. Just Neil and Arwin. I just want to hear what they're saying. Arwin at the moment. Go ahead, Arwin.
Yeah, so maybe before you start criticizing me on a position that you don't even know about because you don't follow my shows, which I dedicate entirely to this subject to clarify it to the utmost possible detail. But you don't know anything about that. You don't know anything about my position. Yet you insist that, I just need to do something that you're saying. Well, you guys literally don't even know my position. And I'm not going to clarify it over here either. I stick to my own show where I can't get rumpused or that sort of thing. So just
Sorry, no
watch
one
my
was-
show.
no one
My
was
show, my first hour today was exclusively about this.
Okay, yes, fine.
Oh, and you're totally freaking wrong, and you refuse to listen to Brian.
Okay,
Shut
hello.
up.
Hello. Okay, fine. Yes, we can plug Arwin's show. Yeah, go and check out the Early Bird show. It's great. Yeah? Arwin, A-R-W.
Not today because it's wrong.
Ugh.
You don't want to listen.
Hey, can everyone
Brian.
stop
You just
rumpusing
fucking
it? Hello,
rant and
hello,
bullshit.
live show. Hello.
Yeah,
Yeah.
live.
Hello, hello. That means stop talking over the top of the host.
Say something
Maybe
to
continue
Jeff when
talking
he
non-stop
starts
over the
yelling.
host, Neil. Can you get control of yourself, please? Thank you. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I don't mind plugging Arwin show. It's Ace, ARWIJN. The Flat Earth Early Bird is the name of the show. Arwin is the name of the channel. Go and subscribe today. Yes, he does great information. No, I'm not paying 100% attention to it. It's on in the background. But yes, I do listen to your show. I'm sure that wasn't directed at me, Arwin. You know damn well I watch your show. But anyway, my point is that
Indeed.
from here, sat where I am now, if it wasn't relative density disequilibrium or gravity or ether or ghosts or Bigfoot or upward bias, you know, there's always something that's nonsensical in a niche community that we don't need to go after. They're not poisoning the Western world. Now you're saying, we must because they might be poisoning our community and telling us that we are scammers. In this case, second time. In the case of Jaren, calling us scammers because we disseminate what the scientific method is. Okay, yeah, they might proactively go after us calling us scammers when we react to Witsit coming on the show telling us ether's real. Okay, that's how people behave when they want to convince us, because they've come here, that that's a aspect of the nature of world that we need to be discussing and debating, which we do, and we have. But as for going after them proactively, I'll say it again, what's the point?
Can I answer? Okay.
can
hold
I
on,
answer,
Brian.
Neil?
I said-
Neil can
I
answer.
said
Yes,
it for
Neil.
one- I
Yes,
said it-
Neil.
I said it for one reason. Because Brian has something freaking that blew us all away, and I would like him to get it out on a live show without interruption.
Yeah, Nathan. This is something. The problem with this is it's another thing that people think we don't need to deal with. Yes, we absolutely do. Right. All the other things that we thought we didn't have to. Well, I didn't think. All the other things that people said, we don't have to deal with that. We did have to deal with it. This, I tell you what the problem is with this. One of the easiest ways to debunk this, right? Even though what I'm going to use here is false, to the public, it's gold. I can use, right, Charles Vernon Boy's 9.81 meters per second squared and a force of G to show with a demonstration, right, falsely, how gravity as a force debunks this. Now, the public don't know what gravity is. They don't know that it's not even a force officially anymore. All they know is the word gravity. So when this becomes a bigger thing, and it will, if it's not addressed, what's going to happen is somewhere down the line on a documentary or something, somebody who's some PhD guy is going to destroy this claim with a force of G and 9.81 meters per second squared boys the calculation. And that's what's going to happen. Now, the reason that can be used to make us all look stupid and debunk this thing on national on a documentary or something down the line, the reason it can is because one of the things that completely debunks this claim is the fact that there is different acceleration rates for things that are falling from different elevations, right? Which means that the upward moving Earth, right, which is actually claimed to be accelerating itself, which is completely nonsense. Adam would tear that apart. later on, because I leave that to Adam. But even if they claim it's constantly up, moving up at a constant rate, the fact of the matter is I can drop something from a low elevation and I can drop the same thing from a high elevation, and the impact force will be greater from a higher elevation. Now, I, as a baller, could take that on a documentary and make everyone in the flat earth arena look like idiots. So it is important. And I'm sorry, but it is. Now, it's easy to debunk.
But Brian, I think it's worse than
That
that.
doesn't mean... Go on.
Let Brian finish.
I thought you had, but go on.
No,
You're the one interrupting him, Neil.
Hold on. Let's just let Brian summarize his point. Go ahead, Brian.
The point is, I can debunk this in about 50 different ways. I can debunk this with a helium balloon, because helium balloon can't go up, because there's no reason for it to go up, because relative density does not exist under that paradigm. All down is only perceptual, right? So the reason some things go down and some things go up is due to a density differential between the objects, substances, and the medium, right? Under that paradigm, there is no down. Down is only perceptual. You think something is going down because the Earth is coming up, right? That means everything is hanging in free space, just like Einstein said, right? Which means if I leave go of a helium balloon and a brick, right, a building brick, the two of them must sit in free space until the Earth comes up to meet them. So that means the brick is not going down and the helium balloon is not going up. Now, I have a load of different ways, easy ways to destroy it, with the fall rates of things and how a helium balloon and an air-filled balloon behave differently. The airplanes couldn't take off. There's a load of things, right? Airplanes couldn't hold altitude. There's a million different things that I could use. But the problem is that our opposition, right? Why does the Flat Earth Society claim this? Because it's easy for people with a gravity mindset to show the public how it's debunked using their non-force of gravity. That's why. That's why it exists as a claim.
So what you're saying is the only... Because I tried to ascertain what the benefit to us was on a previous show, and I didn't get any decent answers. Why are we claiming this? What's it for? What's the point of claiming it? Do we need to explain how some things go down, some things go up, do we need to do this? No, we don't. There's no reason for us to have this burden. But we have. Well, now we know the real reason why it's there, and it was the same reason it was there from Flat Earth Society, and I think Brian's right. So that we can have our opponent set up a nice little false dichotomy with our version of what causes things to be stuck to a ball Earth in space. Sorry, we don't make that claim or need to. But our version is upward at 9.8 meters per second. What? A bit like Einstein described. All right. Why?
It's exactly what it is.
Why? Well, there is no reason why. I don't understand why Dell is doing this. I don't know what possible reason he has to benefit from claiming this. There's no burden on Dell to make any of these claims. So by contrast, Globers have got to keep people stuck to a spinning water ball flying at thousands of miles an hour through space. We don't have that burden. Why are we making claims about it? I don't know. That's the answer. But I don't care. I don't think you're right. I don't think it's going to poison.
Foolish.
Hey,
I don't think it's going to poison.
I don't know why he does it either. It's really foolish because even if it were to be true, and of course Ryan contradicts that, whatever, even if it were true, he would never be able to prove it. It's completely pointless. It's pointless to assert. It's just a reification of something you can never prove. Another aberration, right? It's just gravity aberration in another format. Something you can't prove. There you go.
Hey, check it out. Check it out. What I was going to say.
Hold on.
What I was going to say is it gets even worse.
Then Brian again. But before you do go, D-Rose, hold that thought just one second. Jardo, thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. Jardo says, Neil Das protests too much about Globebusters. I think there is a secret love there. Yeah, you're not wrong. I always say the same thing when they talk about Globebusters. They're all going to rumpus me when I say this. But I say, all right, so you're a fan then? And they all get annoyed. No, I'm not a fan. Well, did you watch it? Yeah. Well, then you're a fan. No, I watch it because I don't like it. Yeah, all right, okay. You love to hate it. Yeah, same thing.
Talking about Dell.
Yeah, I'm talking to Jardo. Just ignore us. Me and Jardo are having a little aside. Thanks for the super chat.
Hey, if you watch a show because you love it, you're a fan. If you watch a show because you hate it, you're a fanny.
You're a fan, all the same. You know, the fact that people make YouTube videos specifically about how to monetize your haters, that's because they're fans too. Just as much a fan as anybody else watching the show. Oh, they dislike rather than
fannies.
like. Oh, right. Oh, they criticize
No.
rather. Yeah, that's all the same thing.
Okay.
No, they're not fans. They're fannies.
Oh, and let me go now, please.
Go ahead, D-Rose. Then
Before I
Brian.
forget what I was going to say. I meant to say this yesterday, but y'all ended the show. Neil asked me to yield. I did, and he didn't. Then I tried to say this, but it gets even worse. I heard from a Glober, and this is more of reification in a new way for the gravitational nonsense. This is what they said. There is not an ever-expanding, infinite expanding universe, and the Earth does not accelerate upwards. They said it is an infinite contracting universe, which means, and AKA the sky is falling because the universe, the ever infinite expanding universe is coming inward toward the Earth. And that is what is making everything seem like the Earth is going up, accelerating, which gives the force of everything coming down fast. So be prepared for that. I don't know how much it's spreading, but this is what a Globalist said. And don't take me verbatim, but break it down and decipher what I'm saying. That's what they're trying to say. Universe out there is squeezing in, coming towards us. The sky is falling, and that's what it makes it seem like. The Earth, the misconstruing of the Earth is accelerating, outward expansion theory, or whatever you want to call it. So it's a reverse reification. That's what they're doing now.
That's heresy.
Yes, it is. Yes, we will cover that in a sec. Hello. Yeah, Brian, go ahead then, John.
Yeah, just concerning that. No, the baller who's trying to tell that the D Rose doesn't know what he's talking about. He's trying to describe Einstein's equivalence principle, and he obviously hasn't got a clue what he's talking about. But don't worry about D Rose because they denied that for years because they're idiots. But anyway, no, I watched with QE and Adam and I think Neil, maybe Chocolate the other day. The video that Dell put out, one of his first videos put out on this. And the problem is Dell is making this claim because he doesn't understand what's going on within his own demonstration. And the same thing is happening with everyone else that's doing these demonstrations. They're not understanding the word acceleration and what that implies and parts of their demonstrations. They're confused about their own demonstrations. And that's what the problem is. Because Dell is pushing a bottle of water he has on his desk, a bottle that's half filled with water. He has it laterally laid sideways on his desk. And he's pushing it, let's say, from right to left. And the water is going to the back of the bottle while the air goes to the front. But his point then is that when he drops it, the water doesn't go to the top of the bottle and the air to the bottom. He's not understanding the water is not going to go to the top of the bottle and displace the air to the bottom, because the water is the heavier medium. It's not. Water is always wanting to go down in the medium of air because it's more dense. And that's what he didn't understand. So it's his lack of understanding of relative density and word and acceleration and how that works. He doesn't it's his lack of understanding that has brought things to this point.
No,
if you look at his video, it is Arwen. We all went through it. Yes, it is. That's what
relative density only applies to a stationary medium.
No, Arwen, you're missing. Have you seen his video? Have you seen his video?
Well, where's your experiments then?
Have you seen
to prove
his
that
video?
It also applies to an accelerating medium?
Oh, Jesus, Arwen, have you seen his video?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was it then? Tell me about it.
Dropping some stuff and then it being very short-lived. And then,
that wasn't it. That wasn't it. No, that wasn't it. That wasn't. No, he didn't even drop
video. You're talking about another video then.
Yeah, the video I'm talking about. Yeah. Arwen,
which one is that?
Arwen, what's wrong is that you don't understand what it is that you're arguing against. No, you don't.
Yeah, I do. I do actually watch Dell's channel.
You're stating
I do watch him talking about this shit.
So you're stating that the fall rate of a bottle of water through air is equal to the rise rate of a piece of cork in that bottle of water.
No.
Yeah. So yeah, you just about yourself then. Maybe just shut up.
No need.
I don't care. I've had enough of him, Nathan. I've had enough of him. He's making these big stupid claims.
If you're
He
just
doesn't know what he's
arguing against
talking about.
Dell and
And
what
then when you
Dell
go
has
against
said,
Owen.
then yeah, go,
He
man,
flips
go.
out.
But that's not
he
my
flips out
argument,
and rage
though.
quits. We tried to
I'm not
talk
rage
about
quitting.
this.
Why don't you
We've
stop
tried to
being
talk
a
about
bitch?
this with him.
We're discussing
and he
it
just
now live.
rage
Stop
quit.
complaining about it.
Can we all just get along?
If you
Yeah,
have complaints about what Dell has said, I get it. He's fucked it up for sure. Yeah, it's not anything that I stand behind.
You said no when I specifically pointed out exactly what the problem was and where Dell's confusion was. You said no, without any
Dell's
backing for
confusion
that.
was okay.
Yeah, without any
Dell's
backing
confusion
for
is there,
That's what you
sure.
said. No, it's not. Well, that's exactly what's wrong. You can watch his video and see that he doesn't understand relative density. He's not understanding why the water doesn't go to the top of the bottle when it's dropped.
Yeah, it's
That's the
because
problem.
it's
That's
not
the starting
accelerating
problem.
properly down. Merely falling doesn't actually make that acceleration rate. You have to dive. Yeah, that's why it's not just a plane falling out of the sky. No, it's diving because there's air friction that's going to counteract the acceleration rate so that you
That's not
don't
the point.
even it out
That's not the point.
unless you rush
Mate,
down.
The
Well,
point
that's
is
not
the
the point.
water
Okay, well then there
is
is no
more
point.
dense than the air. So the air inside the bottle is not going to go to the bottom of the bottle while the water goes to the top when the thing is falling. The water doesn't go to the top of the bottle because it's heavier and more dense than the air. So it's going to go down. So the air that's in the bottle is going to stay at the top. Unlike when you push it laterally.
Unless you rush it.
1 second. Unlike when you push it unlike when you push it laterally, that's a different thing because you're causing the water then to go to the back of the bottle, but it's still not going down. It's still not going up to the top of the bottle with the air underneath it. That's not happening. It's Dell's misunderstanding of his own demonstration. That's what the problem is.
Sure.
That's where this comes from.
He's definitely not understanding his own demonstration because he's not doing it properly. He's not even making his claim properly because throwing an object is not going to result in the proper acceleration rate. You would have to make it fall faster than it naturally would. It would have to be like rocket propelled downward, and then you will definitely see an axis reversal. You will definitely see that. The water will be definitely pushed to the top, and the air within it will definitely rush down if it goes faster than its normal fall rate, which is impeded by the friction of the air.
Okay, guys.
And that it can't exceed the acceleration rate.
Okay, just 1 sec. Quick shout out to Jardo, who says, love when Brian has a few glasses of red wine on the show. I don't think so. It's pretty early here, but there we go. John, go ahead. Thank you for the super chat, Jardo.
First of all, I got 2 points. If somebody's trying to argue with you that the universe is contracting, he's a heretic. Tell him to go argue with his priests. We don't make a claim about that. He can go deal with that with somebody else. Second of all, if 9.8 meters per second acceleration isn't enough to establish an axis of whatever in relative density, then the upward rising Earth at 9.8 meters per second is not enough to establish an axis of radiation or whatever. The claim is nonsensical on its face.
Would have to exceed the standard acceleration rate downward. You have to move faster than the normal fall rate in order to reverse the density axis within the closed medium that is accelerating downward.
You can't reverse the density.
Yeah,
axis.
you damn well can.
You can't reverse the density axis. You can't reverse it.
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
You just have to make it move faster
can't do
than
that.
its
What you're
normal
trying to
drop rate.
No, you're trying to.
Yes.
You won't change
Owen, please
anything, Owen.
stop. Both of you stop. Owen, you can't just keep saying, yeah, you can over the top of him when he's trying to respond. Please. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, that's just a baseless assertion fallacy. That's just in his own imagination it's possible. Kind of like it's possible within the imaginations of the Ethereans, how density suddenly polarizes itself. No, that doesn't happen. That's your imagination, Erwin. No, things fall at the rate they fall. If you pull the bottle down, right, fast to try and make the water slosh around within the bottle. Some of the water will go to the top, but when you leave it go, that water is going to be at the bottom of the bottle, no matter how fast it's falling, because it's more dense. That's the point. That's why it's going down. If it wasn't more dense than the air around it, it would be going up.
Yeah, you don't understand relative density.
So something that's less dense than the medium goes up, and something more dense than the medium goes down is wrong now, is it? Well,
Respond.
yeah, come on. Yeah, as I thought.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
I
Thank you,
like that.
Nathan.
Look, I'm not even part of this thing. I'm just hearing it for the first time, but sounds like Dell is saying things that he can't support. Maybe so. I don't understand why we can't do a review video on Dell and what he said to get us all caught up to this point of the debate of it.
Well, just shout out to Michael Kahn, who says, Scripture says Earth doesn't move. Game over. Thank you for the super chat.
I mean,
The real problem, 10th, is there's no coherent claim made about this. So all you can do is work with the fragmented attempts that they make and try to rationalize something in it, and you never get anywhere with it because it's a baseless assertion at best and a red herring fallacy attached to it. There's nothing there.
Here's what I know, being on the side of it, not involved. They say Einstein says the Earth is moving up. Then they say the Flat Earth Society says the Earth is moving up. Now Dell is saying the Earth is moving up. So where is the information? Where is the evidence for this? And why are these three different arguments being made that the Earth is moving up? The audience would like to know if it's just made up fantasy, who is the first? Why is it still being talked about? And is there any proof for it?
I can watch the video, but we watched the video the other day. A couple of us in the after show, and what it was is that Dell didn't understand his own demonstration. He was expecting something to happen that won't happen because of relative density, and he thinks that then debunks relative density. He doesn't understand that what he's expecting to happen won't happen because of relative density. It's a misunderstanding with physics and the word acceleration. Because I've heard him use the term acceleration, and Adam pointed out the other day, and Adam could kind of clarify this, that to claim the Earth is accelerating up the way, which means it's not moving at a constant velocity. Now, if any of them are making that claim, and I have heard that claim, the word acceleration being used, that means that, as Adam points out, something that's dropped now.
Have we lost Brian?
Brian dropped off.
Yeah, connection issues. He'll be back in a second.
I'm back. Sorry about that.
Go ahead.
No, I was trying to turn off an alarm. But something that's dropped now and something that's dropped tomorrow or next week has to fall at a much faster rate, because the acceleration rate is constantly increasing. That's the whole point of Charles Fehrenbach's 9.81 meters per second squared, is that the object that's falling, the longer it's falling, the greater its acceleration. So
I'll explain this, Brian.
Go on, John. Yeah.
If you have a 9.8 meters acceleration, you have a constant increase in speed or change in velocity. So flat earthers can't be claiming orbit, or they're really dumb. So the only thing left is straight up increase in speed. So that, yeah, they don't understand what acceleration is when they make that claim.
But why? Why is that something that needs to be claimed by flat earthers? I'm still in the dark. I know I asked it earlier. I've listened. I don't think I've got an answer to that yet. What's the primary positive reason or assertion or benefit for us as flat earthers claiming this? What are we trying to prove?
Hang on. You're asking that question as if there's a community of flat earthers that have an agreed upon manifesto of how things work.
I don't
What we
mind
have
rephrasing
is
what's in
well,
it for
no,
the individual, flat earther or otherwise, to claim upward acceleration at 9.8 meters per second? What's in it for them?
I think Brian alluded to it already. It's some way to talk about gravity. That doesn't exist in the first place.
No, it's a mathematical advantage. And that's all.
Yeah, but it's about gravity at the end of the day.
Damage control.
Of course it's not gravity.
It's,
I'm not saying it
it's
is
damage
gravity.
control.
I'm saying it's, my gosh. How many versions of gravity do we got, Arwin? Is this just another one?
What it is people, just like with the Ethereans, they can't accept that the cause of something going down and something going up in the medium is just purely down to density. They're looking for more than density, and they won't find it. They'll find pseudoscience and misunderstandings, and that's the problem we have. They're looking for something that's more than density. They're looking for basically what it like. It's kind of like they go looking for the cause of relative density and they can't find it because it's basically entropy, and they can't find the cause of entropy, and then they go off down a different road. I don't know why they keep looking for.
They're looking for the cause of the density. Why is it arranged the way it is? So not
No,
does
that's not what they'll
something
claim.
move because it's denser or less dense, but why does it move like that? That's
Dale
that's what they get stuck up on.
Dale said he was looking for the reason that everything falls down.
Well, there you go. Everything
Except for
doesn't fall
helium
down.
balloons.
Yeah, everything doesn't fall down. So there you go. It's just another form of gravity.
Can I ask a stupid question? When I've had this discussion about the relative density and things more dense going down and less denser things going up, some of the globers are asking, well, why isn't it going to the side? I'm just purely talking about air now and stuff on the ground. They'll say, why doesn't it go to the side? They're somewhat agreeing that it's more denser than the air. But what's making its mind up to go down and not to the side? Because it's the less dense substances all around it. That's what I get asked sometimes, and I'm not sure what the rebuttal is for that. Just wondering.
Sometimes it does if the wind.
Well, they're going to go
If the wind-
sideways if it at the sideways there is air. So like a liquid, right? There's air to the side of it. It can maneuver. It's less dense surrounding it, so it's going to move. Well, it can't move down, so it'll then, well, it probably move in between, basically. It still try to get under it, except it's a very thin band it can maneuver in, so it effectively moves sideways.
Quick shout out to
I think
Television. Sorry, just 1 sec. Shout out to Television who says, free super chat? Question mark. Yeah, you get a free super chat as a member. FED rocks. Keep up the good work, Nathan and panel. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. Sorry, Owen, go ahead.
And
I was done.
Yeah,
It's just
sorry,
it
it's
moves
Joker, man.
sideways
Do you mind if
because
I
it's
just quickly
still-
say something?
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I think there's order to this world. And I think a lot of this idea about it going in different directions, I think it's because we're still thinking in this chaotic, demonic world of the globe. And I think if we notice how still this world really is and focus on, well, what matters, it's the world changes. You know, I think everybody has an opinion on their beliefs on how they see the world. And it's good to just shake off the bad stuff, the stuff that's not real, the lies. And to tell you the truth, I'm not a fan of Dal. I heard about this upward motion years and years ago. He was spouting, and I thought it was a load of rubbish. I think you're right. I think it is to try and bring back gravity into the debate, and I think it's just a lie. I don't think it's any attempt to try and make sense of anything. I think it's just a distraction. I think it's very shilly behavior, but I know Nathan's not a fan of talking about shills in the community, but I think they are out there.
Have you checked out
I'd
my
like
shows?
to defend
Can I
Del
ask?
there.
I had Adam
Can I
first.
ask if-
Hold on, Darwin. I had Adam first. Go ahead, Adam. Thank you, Joker Man. Go ahead, Adam.
We can often come to the wrong conclusions if we read half a book. Myself included. Thanks to Brian the other day for explaining the mathematics to me of what they were claiming. And I think unless you go and read that and understand it fully, you're going to come to silly conclusions because you're not following the mathematics that's being described to give you an upward moving Earth. And more fundamentally, you're not understanding the implications of applying that physics. If that physics is going to be your determinant of direction and forces applied, that's fine. But you have to understand what you lose when you gain that. And I mean, I don't know if you've mentioned it, but there's no such thing as weight. And there is no relative density disequilibrium. Everything just waits for the Earth to catch it. It stays in free space until the Earth applies a force to it. Nothing else is happening until the Earth, directly or indirectly, applies a force. And I think if you don't grasp that point, you can wander off into fanciful tales that allow you to cognitize it with your knowledge of the natural world and reality to try and make sense of this explanation. But and like I say, thanks to Brian, better to realize that there is no such thing as weight or relative density if we're discussing an upward accelerating Earth based on Einstein's relativity.
A couple of quick shout outs. Shout out to Original D Rose says, don't forget the sky is falling. Thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. Also, shout out to, how do you say this? Carney West. Okay. Anti-Chicken Little Society. The ground is rising. Thank you for the super chats. Really appreciate the support.
So nobody watches my shows?
Oh, God,
Nobody
we're going to
watched my
have this
show
again. We
today?
have already had this once.
So you didn't,
I do watch your shows, Arwen. I put them on the background almost daily. I didn't today.
but not this day though.
Today I didn't know. But yes, I
Arwen,
generally...
people will watch your show when they want to watch your show. Why are you crying about this?
Funny day on
Because
Planet
you all
Debate.
seem kind of ill-informed about the whole thing, about the acceleration upward idea, how that works and how it doesn't work.
Well,
If
just
they want-
explained it.
If they want to have you explain it, they can watch your show. How many times are you going to say this?
I'm just asking. Did anybody watch it?
No, I didn't watch it, and I'm not
No.
uninformed.
Okay. Well, today we're going to be covering this video. So this has come from a suggestion from someone in Master B, I believe. I don't actually know who suggested this, but credit to you, whoever it is that suggested this video. So this is going to be, same as ever, go to their video. I'm going to put a link to Sabine Hosselenfelder and let her know that Nathan Oakley 1980 or at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me because we responded to her video. And we're just going to get into it. Like always, or most of the time, we're going into this, or I am at least, blind. So we don't necessarily know what's going to be covered in this video called What is Einstein's Equivalence Principle? So let's get into it.
Folks, I recently read the website of the Flat Earth Society. I'm serious. It's a most remarkable collection of nonsense. Maybe most remarkable is how it throws together physical facts that are correct, but then gets their consequences completely wrong. This is most evident when it comes to flat earthers' elaborations on Einstein's equivalence.
Excuse me? So immediately failing to recognise what a stereotyping fallacy is. Okay. So if I say, check out how Nike treats its employees. All training shoes are blah, 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 blah. No, that's not how it works. Yeah, the Flat Earth Society, specifically introduced by you, is what you're critiquing. Not flat earthers. The Flat Earth Society specifically. So let's get that right, Sabine. Yeah, that's called a stereotyping fallacy.
Equivalence principle. The equivalence principle is experimentally extremely well confirmed, yes. But flat earthers misconstrue evidence for the equivalence principle as evidence for universal acceleration.
Sorry, is this scientific evidence that you're talking about in terms of physics? what occurs in.
You said experiment.
So yes, what was the experiment? I wonder.
Or what they call the universal accelerator. By this, they mean that the gravitational acceleration is the same everywhere on Earth. It is not. But you see, they believe that on their flat Earth there is.
What we believe, I believe, on my flat Earth. What's going to be out of our mouth next? Is this going to be something that I say? If not, are you going to get shouted at?
No gravity. Instead, the flat Earth is accelerating upwards. So.
Oh, really? Yeah, we've just spent the last 25 minutes critiquing people who are claimed to be flat earthers, detailing this absolute nonsense, also asserted by an individual group called the Flat Earth Society. But yet you think it's all of us? No. Stereotyping fallacy.
So if you drop an apple, it's not that gravity is pulling.
I watched a programme last night about murderers, and the guy believed in a globe. I can only extrapolate based on Sabine's logic that you too, Sabine, are a murderer. Correct? Or a stereotyping fallacy, based on your globe belief. Other globe believers believe X, therefore Sabine does. Reasonable?
Pulling it down is that the Earth comes up and hits the apple.
No, I don't think that. I am Nathan Oakley, a flat earther. I do not think that. You are wrong with your stereotyping fallacy. That's the problem with using fallacy.
The interesting thing is now that flat earthers claim.
Not me. So we're going to correct you every time, you stupid cow. I am not claiming this. I am a flat earther. How dare you?
Einstein said you cannot distinguish upward acceleration from downward gravity. That's the equivalence principle, supposedly.
So net force zero.
So you see, Einstein said it, and therefore the Earth.
Therefore it means nothing. It's not physics. It's just something some twat said.
Is flat. You can read on their website. Why does the physics of...
My website? Is this me? You said flat earthers, then you said their website, and then you sort of juxtaposed back your stereotyping fallacy to the Flat Earth Society. Yeah? No, this is not flat earthers. This is the specific individual group called the Flat Earth Society. It is not me.
Of gravity behave exactly as if the Earth were accelerating upwards.
Well, they're wrong. Yeah, we're not. We've just covered this.
Universal accelerator answers this long-standing mystery which has baffled generations of scientists by positing that the Earth is accelerating upwards. Ingenious. Why didn't Einstein think of this?
Well, because he invented fourth-dimensional pseudo-Harmonian force-space-time bending. He just literally plucked an extra dimension out of his arse. Why didn't he think of it? What, Earth moving up? He did.
Well, because it's wrong. And in this video, I will explain why it's wrong. So what is the equivalence principle? The equivalence principle says that acceleration in a flat space-time is locally in...
Right, it says that acceleration in flat space-time... Yeah, we're going to need to see that, Sabine. Can you show us space-time so that we can see acceleration? What sort of a comparative description, including time, but not as a dimension? So this is an equivocation fallacy. We've got two different separate meanings for what time is. It's both a scalar and a dimension. So that's a big problem. It's called an equivocation fallacy, Sabine. So what we've got to listen to you blart on about the equivalence principle when you're using an equivocation fallacy, or moreover you're parroting Einstein's, right? Yeah, we don't have a fourth dimension, you stupid cow. Yeah, time's not a dimension. You're stupid. Yeah, just because Einstein said it doesn't mean it's real. Doesn't make it a dimension just because he invented it. Okay? We all clear?
Indistinguishable from gravity. Okay, that sounds...
Right, what's gravity? You're going to define that? What, so the indistinguishable fact of bending pseudo-force space geometry versus mass attracting mass that's out of date? Indistinguishable from a non-force force that you can think of as a force? Well, let's see it so we can distinguish it. We'll see how indistinguishable it is when you show it us. Oh, what's that? You can't show us a bending fourth-dimensional reified space-time dimension? Shocking!
Somewhat
Just a point of order on that. If things are indistinguishable from each other, but they imply they're different, she's now invoking that there is both gravity and acceleration in a flat space-time. If they're indistinguishable from each other, they're two coexistent things. They're not the same thing, but they're indistinguishable to us, but they are different. That's what that sentence means.
When you say coexist, what's the antithesis of that? So like non-existence.
What I mean is it's not one or the other in that statement. It's both of the explanations of down, be that bendy space-time, or gravity, which is the weird thing she's used because she's not invoked what that type of gravity is. But it's definitely indistinguishable from a local level from acceleration in flat space-time.
Acceleration is qualified with time, right? So how can it be explained with time and in a time dimension?
Yeah, two types of time.
Yeah, it's
the time that we
equivocation.
all know, a made-up time dimension.
Technical. So let us go through this step by step. I assume you know what acceleration is because...
Yeah, we do, but it's got time in it. That's what we've got a problem with, Sabine. You notice myself and my mathematician panel member just discussed that. Yeah, it's called an equivocation fallacy. We'll keep pointing it out to you. Rather than you talking down to us like we don't understand, we understand the fallacy you've used. Shocking, isn't it?
Otherwise, you would not be watching a physics channel.
This isn't physics. You're not talking about the physical. You're talking about the conceptual. You think this is physics? Phys. What's the phys bit mean? Physical. Show me the physical time dimension, you stupid idiot. So it's not physics. It's reified mathematics, conceptual. Yeah, you're stealing valor from people who actually deal with physical reality, because this isn't. Okay, Sabine? Yeah, you've been told by the flat earther, not one that thinks the Earth's rising up at 9.8 meters per second squared, as per your stereotype fallacy that you're using.
Flat space-time means you are dealing with special relativity.
Oh, does it now? I thought this was physics. That would imply that it was physical. So we're not dealing with physics then.
So you have combined space and time, as Einstein...
Really? And yet we're going to qualify them separately as well? With acceleration? Yeah, equivocation fallacy. That's 5 times you've done it so far, Sabine. 5 times of the same fallacy.
Einstein told us to do, but they...
Did he? Did he tell you to jump off a bridge too? To figure out about the accelerating downward, upward bias of Earth going up as you smash into the floor? Did he tell you to jump off a building? Would you do it?
Are not curved, they are flat, like a sheet of paper. Locally means in a small region. So the equivalence principle says, if you can only make measurements in a small region around you, then you cannot tell acceleration apart from gravity.
You can't tell acceleration with time, apart from bending space-time dimensions. Yeah, that's the equivocation that we've pointed out. It's the 6th time you've used it. Go ahead, Adam.
She's distinguishing the two again. They're not the same thing. You can't tell the difference between them. They are different, but you can't tell the difference. That seems fundamentally at odds to her claim or his admission that neither are real, that she considers both in a mathematical sense.
Not in a physics sense, then?
No. There's nothing in physics to back it up.
So she's a liar. When she talked down to the audience about how this is physics, she's just a liar.
You can only tell them apart if you can make measurements over large enough distances.
Measurements? Well, like mathematics.
This is what Einstein's thought experiment with.
Sorry, go ahead, John.
I was going to say, I think really the key to all of this is she's reified the statement that entropy is the arrow of time, and then she's drawn it on a sheet of paper and put it 90 degrees to space and made space into a two-dimensional line. That's where all the problem with this, I think, is coming from.
Right, to make time into a 3rd dimension. So, in other words, the 3rd dimension, whichever it may be, length, breadth, or depth, is condensed down to a single line from a 3rd dimension so that you can reify the 4th dimension that doesn't exist into a 3-dimensional bent piece of paper, with the length, breadth, and depth aspect being only 2-dimensional. Yeah, we've seen at least half a dozen different people try and take you through the steps of, imagine you're a 1-dimensional being, now imagine that you can't imagine 2-dimensional beings because you're only a dot. Now imagine that as a piece of paper and a line drawing. You can't imagine how you'd be three-dimensional. Well, you're three-dimensional, so you can't possibly imagine how there's a fourth-dimensional space-time being bent. Yeah, we've seen that. Yeah, meanwhile, yeah, you can't go up to the canvas painting of a bloody chair and sit on it, can you? It's not possible, because this whole bullshit narrative of jumping between dimensions is just a way of creating an extra one from the three that we actually experience in physics. That's all they're doing.
What the elevator was all about. I talked about this in an earlier video. If you are in the elevator, you do not know whether the elevator is sitting on the surface of a planet and gravity is pulling down, or if the elevator is accelerating upwards. The historical relevance of the equivalence principle is that it allowed Einstein to make the step from special relativity to general relativity. This worked because he already knew how...
Sorry, that's a word. Worked? I see. Like being able to physically do things. Working. Okay, let's see what work Einstein's maths are doing physically. Are they doing any work? When we're told it's not actually a force, maybe you can think of it as being one, but it's not one. So what work would you be referring to? Do you mean work conceptually in the maths? Is that what you mean? Because only, 2 minutes ago you were telling us this was physics. But yeah, it sounds like this is working mathematically as opposed to reality.
to describe acceleration in flat space. You can do that.
There's that equivocation again. 7th time you've used it.
With special relativity. In general relativity then, space-time is curved, but locally it is flat. So you can use...
But those two things are at odds with one another, so the dimension that we don't see doesn't exist. You haven't shown us in physical reality is both flat and bent. That makes no sense.
The thing about what she's claiming here is, I'll give her the point. Maybe in the description of relativity that Einstein uses mathematically, you can't tell the difference as whether when you're in a lift, who's going which way. But in reality, you can, because there are other forces at play because of this action that you experience, and so you are able to tell because you are in reality and you're grounded in that. The only way to describe these two things as equivocable and not being able to tell the difference is to give them a mathematical description which limits other parts of reality so that you are only able to differentiate in the maths, and there is no differentiation in reality between up and down, which is moving, in the maths. As I say, in reality, there's nobody ever in existence. Other than that little video where sometimes your sensors are tricked for a microsecond, where you're on the train and you think you're moving, but it was the other train. How long does that take your grasp of reality to figure it out? You don't sit there wondering forever going, I wonder if it's me or the other train that's moving. Your other senses inform you. And this is the criticism that shout out Brian that seems to be in that physics. It negates other forms of physical reality to allow that equivalence.
Thanks, Adam.
Great point.
Use special relativity locally and get general relativity. The equivalence principle connects both. That was Einstein's great insight. So the equivalence principle says that you cannot tell gravity from acceleration in a small region.
Yeah, that's 8th time she's used it. Yeah, you're talking about gravity as a bent fourth-dimensional space-time versus acceleration, which is qualified with time. You just keep doing it over and over again with a smug grin on your face, like you're being clever. You're not. You're using a fallacy.
That sounds indeed very much like what flat earthers say.
What?
Well, what she's actually doing is she's talking about Einstein saying that you can't distinguish a force of gravity from an upward accelerating Earth. That's what I think she's talking about.
Yeah, upward acceleration. Qualified with time. Acceleration is qualified with time, isn't it, Brian?
Yes, it is.
Right. You can't tell the difference between something qualified with time and an invented fourth-dimensional space-time. Moving on.
Yes, but what she when she mentions you can't tell the difference between gravity and an acceleration, what she's referring to there, as far as I know, is Einstein pointing out that what we observe and call a force of attraction downward is actually just an acceleration upward that we're mistaking.
Yeah, in a geodesic bent journey through space-time. I get it.
Yeah, but he's referring to people. So he took away the force of gravity, the force of attraction. So his point being that things aren't falling down; they're sitting in free space for the Earth to come up to meet them, as opposed to the Earth is accelerating up the way, as opposed to the object being pulled down the way.
Okay.
But he's not, at that point, you've not introduced the concept of space-time. What Brian's saying is outside of introducing that concept of space-time.
Okay, fair enough.
But here's the important point. How large the region needs to be to tell apart gravity from acceleration depends on how precisely you can measure and how far you are willing to walk. If you cannot measure very precisely, you may have to climb on a mountaintop. You then find that the acceleration up there is smaller than at sea level.
What acceleration would that be? Anybody? What's she talking about?
I don't know. I just said, what the heck, when I heard that.
I mean, dead serious. Maybe the audience can let me know. There's a good chunk of people watching, almost 120 people. What's she talking about?
I'll have to hear it again.
What acceleration? When you're on the ground, standing still, or on a mountain? What acceleration is she talking about?
The accelerating coffee cup. Any change in weight. She's gone off the rails pretty much. But yeah, if you go higher, the pressure differential is different, so the weight's different. So she's saying weight is a downward acceleration, and your coffee cup's accelerating because the Earth's rising up. It is the most cluster screw of nonsense that can be just conflated with reality.
Why? Because the gravitational force decreases with the distance to the center of the Earth. That's Newton's 1/r² force.
Distance to the center of the Earth. Okay. Where have you got that from? Make this maths work. It's not physics, but you'll need that, won't you? Yeah, when we talk about gravity and say you'll need R? There it is. Where is it? If it's only in maths, and R is pretty much dependent on this claim, then we're going to need R, aren't we? Yeah, we've debunked it. You haven't got an R to put in this maths anymore. And if you have, you better damn well show where you measured it.
Indeed, since the Earth...
Hang on. Correct me if I'm wrong.
10th first. 10th, go ahead.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. First, she says Newton, and then she says Einstein, and then now she brings back Newton in the center of the Earth and the mass attracting mass. But her overriding argument is Einstein, and that doesn't work anymore. But she keeps bringing it up on this last statement.
Yeah, what she's doing is saying you can't tell the difference.
All right, but if Einstein debunked Newton, and now it's not what Newton said, can you say you can't tell the difference and still keep part of Newton?
Yeah, that with both Newton and Einstein, they're conjuring a non-force into existence. So it doesn't matter in maths or in reality if there isn't anything happening and you say the reason this zero effect is happening is because of X type of gravity. However, that's the same basically as this other description of nothing happening. So you can't tell apart the difference between a guy called Newton creating a force that doesn't exist because it doesn't need to in a three-dimensional world versus Einstein creating a non-force force that you can think of as a force in a fourth-dimensional world because they're both describing something that doesn't happen. So you basically can't tell them apart.
Well, I'd like it if you could go back 10 seconds there or so, because she said something there a while back and I missed it. But I think what she's talking about is she said that the attractive force decreases as you rise, right?
That's correct. That's what she said.
Yeah. Well, what she's trying to state is that that would mean that you would become, your weight would be less. But that's not true, because you will accelerate from a higher elevation with lower pressures. You will accelerate faster than in higher pressure. So when you get like the Felix Baumgartner, when he got into the more dense air, he slowed down his acceleration rate. So
If you cannot...
I missed part of it, so I don't know, but I know what she's talking about. She's trying to explain Einstein's thinking behind his equivalence principle, which took away gravity causing weight and downward force and all this.
Measure very precisely. You may have to climb on a mountaintop. You then find that the acceleration up there is smaller than at sea level. Why? Because the gravitational force decreases with the distance to the center of the Earth.
Brian, you nailed it. So Felix Baumgartner is falling a lot faster with less air, and then when he gets there, he falls slower.
Told you, Brian's always on point. Brian
Well, but
is
he's
ace.
closer to the Earth, and the gravitation is stronger, but he's falling slower.
That's Newton's 1/r square force. Indeed, since the Earth is not exactly a sphere, the acceleration also differs somewhat between the equator and the poles. This can and has been measured to great precision.
What? Where? Where? Let's see it. Let's see the measurement. Oh, of course, she's going to
I'd
present
like
it.
to comment. No,
Go
I
on.
give the opposite. I watched that Felix Baumgartner jump, and they had his speed when he was falling, when he first stepped off, and then just as he was coming down, the speed was changing. So they have measured, he slows down.
I remember
But
someone...
the force is greater.
Pretty sure I remember someone called Brian saying that not long ago. I could just be me.
Hang on.
Yeah,
Nathan.
we've known all this for...
Go on.
1 second. There's an overriding point here, where just when we're talking about the force of gravity, how they would explain that is that, oh, well, there's more air, so there's more friction. And the reason there's more air close to the surface is because air is a mass and gravity gives weight to a mass. That means air has weight. That's how they would try and explain it out to somebody who doesn't know any better.
I love it. So gas go down, go boom, boom. I see.
Yeah.
I got you. Yeah, it doesn't
as
do
we
that,
know,
though.
objects weigh more in a vacuum.
Yeah, but it doesn't do that. Objects don't weigh more in a vacuum.
They do. They should weigh less in a vacuum if gravity was a force and was real. They do. Objects weigh more in a vacuum.
Somewhat.
Debunking their claims.
If the acceleration we normally assign to gravity was the same everywhere on Earth, that would contradict a huge number of measurements. Evidence strongly speaks against it.
What evidence would that be? Okay. Go on.
Can I change my previous answer of agreeing with Brian?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. In a vacuum, things don't weigh at all. Because the term weight is a convention. Solids and liquids in the medium of air and the measurement of their downward pressure on the scale in the medium of air. So by putting it in a vacuum, in a technical sense, you exclude it from some of the parameters required for the definition of weight, i.e. in the medium of air.
Adam Meakin, ladies and gentlemen. No, he's absolutely correct, isn't he? It's qualified, it's specific, it's described in a certain medium. If it wasn't, you'd have people putting scales on the bottom of swimming pools.
Yeah, I understand that from a calculation point of view. But as a downward, the point of the matter is that object will still have a downward pressure on a scales. So the scales can still measure a downward pressure. The point is that if air had weight, then that downward pressure would be less in a vacuum, not more. Where it's more, debunking the claim that air has weight.
No, I don't think Adam's disagreeing with that, but it's just adding to it to be factually accurate in terms of the convention. And it's our convention, after all. You know, we define these things, not us personally, but you know what I mean. And yeah, once you get outside of the convention, yeah, your principle stands because they're making a claim specifically about what gravity does or doesn't do inside of vacuums. So it's relevant to their claim. You're debunking their claim as opposed to making a positive assertion with it. you don't need to. A bit like with the upward bias. But either way, Adam's correct, isn't he? It's working outside of the convention, isn't it?
Well, what medium is air being weighed in?
You
If
can't
air is
weigh
the
air.
medium that was used.
Well, it is the
Yeah,
medium
well,
when you say weight.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. It is the medium. Any more, Adam?
Yeah, which is the point. Yeah, which is the point. Yeah, what are we basing air's weight off of? This claimed weight. You can't. That is the medium that weight is calculated from.
Are we going to go live a little bit longer? Because we've got 120 people watching, and I typically say if we get to that sort of number, I'll stay live for a little bit longer. But nice that we've got good viewing figures, so please share the show, and obviously a massive thank you to all of you who've smashed the share button already. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing. Hopefully we can get up to 150 people. We'll never know.
You owe us for a non-pre-show, so.
You guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I wasn't sure. But yeah, look, if you're gonna put air in a balloon that's really rigid, so it won't pop because of a vacuum, and you put it in a vacuum, then the inflated balloon will weigh microscopic amounts more, or the scale will register just a tiny bit more than if it weren't inflated, if it was just completely empty. But yeah, that's vacuum weight, right? So whatever they're registering is not going to be accurate with the normal understanding of weight in air. It's not going to register the same weight because the disequilibrium has been maximized by minimizing the density of the medium. And then air will register some, but only when contained.
Somewhat.
Rigidly.
Register
from the
somewhat.
medium that surrounds it, which is going to be a vacuum.
Register somewhat. Weight.
Extra pressure, disequilibrium pressure.
Fair enough. Because you're causing feedback, by the way, Arwin. Yeah, it can't be called weight, though. It's immediately set outside the convention. I think Brian's already conceded that. It doesn't change his point because they're making a claim about how things behave in certain mediums. Now, the fact that they use qualifiers that use the word weight and it's not relevant to the specific medium that's being argued about isn't our problem. It's not our claim. So Brian doesn't have to concern himself with this at all. But it's still correct. Adam's right.
Sorry, I agree, but there is such a thing as vacuum weight. It's just not really widely known.
Vacuum weight's something different. Okay, so because of what Brian said, when we looked into this in some of the more technical stuff, and density and the way that pressure then redistributes onto the scale in a vacuum means that you do have to make adjustments for that. I just want to make a separate point, which is weight. Why do we weigh things? We weigh them so we know how much of something we've got. And with solids and liquids, we can weigh them and do a molar conversion to calculate exactly how many molecules we've got. If we weigh a gas, even if we get a gas in some convoluted methodology to be able to weigh it in something, that weight that we say is registered is not commensurate in any way with the number of molecules. You can't tell me how many molecules are there if I say the scale went up by this much when I put gas in. The way in which we calculate how many molecules, how much gas we've got, is we have to have something other than weight, and that's both to know the volume and the pressure in that volume. We can then calculate how many molecules we've got of a gas. And they're two different conventions for dealing with how much of something we've got based on its phase, its state. To try and convolute the two is just to ignore everything that's been developed up till now. It's such a strange thing, particularly when you look at these ballers. Forcing weight into air is just, it's nonsensical.
Well, they want to unify it all, right? That's the overall problem. They want to put it all in one thing. They want to make the theory of everything, and so they have to switch it all together, even when it's not compatible.
If you can measure very precisely, you can even find evidence for the non-universality of the...
I just want to clear up something here. When it comes to weighing, what people call weighing a gas, when you put a high density of gas of a gas. Doesn't matter, even if it's helium. You put it at high density into a container, and you put that container onto a scales. What you have there is a greater downward force within that container than it had before you put in the high density of gas, right? Before you pressurize it, right? So you have an extra downward force on the scales. But you have another thing going on, because when you force, because gas is compressible, you can compress a lot of gas into a space that you can't do with a liquid, right? So consequently, you can actually change the density within that container to be more dense than the air around it, even with helium, because you can force so much in. And often the time, that's when, as Adam would know, that's when the gases, helium won't do it, but a lot of gases will end up starting to liquefy, going back to a liquid state at the bottom. But even if they don't go back to a liquid state at the bottom, you still have an extra downward force that wasn't there, that's the scales is registering, and you also have the fact that now what's in that has become more dense than the air around it, so that means it wants to go down. Not saying it wants to go down, but it's not sentient.
One minor point of correction. They don't turn to liquid. If you take a canister and force a load of gas into it, and you describe the sloshing at the bottom, it's not actually liquid. So what you've got is gas that is so close together that there's less gaps. So it's like rolling over the other molecules, but it's still unbonded. So it's definitely not liquid, but it starts behaving like a liquid.
No, but it is under pressure. It is just like water eventually evaporates when you depressurize it. It's the same consequence.
Nathan's right. The amount of available space for the gas molecules becomes so compacted that the molecules are as close together as if they were in a liquid state.
But they're not.
I think it's termed saturation point.
Not technically, but pressure is sufficient to transfer phase. So it is going into a liquid, and if you increased it more and more, but you kind of, I think as I understand it, in that zone where you, exactly as you describe, and maybe phase transition. It all depends, you know what I mean? It's
a saturation
under
point.
that pressure, it does become.
Sorry.
You've got a dynamic system there. So at the point where there's compacted stuff, there's still going to be stuff escaping and containing it, so that everything's going to be moving in and out of phase. It's not going to be there's a pool of just the liquid and then loads of high pressure gas. They're going to be transitioning between that phase point all the time. It's just one homogeneous substance, isn't it? So they're not going to sit. They're all trying to share and get some enough energy to come out of that gas, out of that liquid compactness, and get into that space that's available for a microsecond. So they're all competing, and some will be constrained and some won't be constrained. But there's not these molecules are here and these molecules are there.
Well, hold on.
Can I say something, please? It's the same thing as with the ocean and water vapor hanging over it. There is exchange. That's the same situation in a tanker, except because of the super high pressure, the gas that normally wouldn't do that will now do that. So it definitely does become a liquid, just as if you put a bottle of water or a glass of water in a vacuum chamber and you depressurize it, it all vaporizes.
No, that's not correct.
No,
so in that instance, what's happening there is you do have liquid, but the small amount of energy, let's say it's from the sun, with your ocean example, is enough to break the bond that the liquid has. Therefore, that particular particle breaks free of the bond of the liquid and becomes gas. So that's not the same. It's not the same as putting so much gas into a space that... Go on.
How is that not the same? If you take the same substance and then put more pressure under it, more will liquidate, right? And if you depressurize it, the opposite will happen. It doesn't matter. It's the same process. It's the different pressure.
It's a moot point.
I have to disagree with Nathan. The reason that the sloshing is happening at the bottom is because it has started to liquefy. That means it's more dense, and that's why it's at the bottom. If it hadn't become if it was still a gas, then there wouldn't be that effect at the bottom of the container, because gas expands in all directions evenly, whereas a liquid will compact is so much more dense, and once it changes to that phase, it will go down. That's why it's always at the bottom, because it is starting to liquefy at the bottom.
No.
Yes.
Well,
No.
hold on.
No, no,
Th-
he's
this-
right.
Isn't
No,
this
it
point
has to be
moved?
bonded.
There are
No.
gases
Hello.
that do that.
Hello. No, it has to be bonded.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to say. Hold on.
No.
This point is kind of moot, because whether you're saying that the bonds are not going to change and it will just be a fluid that seems like a liquid, or if you say that the pressure is changing the temperature that the phase change takes place at, either way, we're discussing reality and she's talking about something different.
Fair enough. It is fairly moot, but I am correct.
No, but this is
The
the same type
gravitational
of idea as if you're
Hold on, I've
imagining
triggered
that water
everybody.
vapor are little droplets of water. They aren't. It's a gaseous state. There is a transformation, and the pressure is a critical component in the threshold of that.
I agree. Doesn't change that there's an actual phase change going on when you gave an example of how gas will detach itself from liquid. That's phase change. Anyway, it's moot.
That's
John's
what's
right.
happening in the
Let's not
bottom,
thrash
Nathan.
this out. This is extended live show and we're thrashing out something relatively moot. Let's be honest.
I think it's really relevant, though.
Yeah, but we've done it now.
Substantial
I want to get back to
understanding.
acceleration.
Yes, let's just hear a bit from Sabine. That'll get us back on track.
Pull in the laboratory. Mountains themselves, for example, have a non-negligible gravitational pull.
It's her accent, but I didn't understand a sodding word of that.
And evidence for the non-universality of the gravitational pull in the
The non-universality of the gravitational pull. Okay, I got it now. Second time.
laboratory.
Laboratory. That word doesn't seem to fit in the sentence. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to the audience. I'm gonna have to listen to it a third time. It's just her accent, and I'm not gonna attack her for it either. It's just me. It's me. It's my fault.
If you can measure very precisely, you can even find evidence for the non-universality of the gravitational pull in the laboratory.
The non-universality of the gravitational pull in the laboratory. Wow, that's a bloody mouthful. Okay.
Well, if you think of,
Go on.
I was going to say, so you can measure the not force of the not force.
Yes, you can measure the not
you
force
can-
force that you can think of as a force in a laboratory. That's what she said.
No, she didn't. She said you can measure the non-force force that is a constant and show that it's not a constant non-force force
In the laboratory.
in a lab. Yeah.
We're dealing with nutters. This woman's a nutter.
Mountains themselves, for example, have a non-negligible gravitational pull.
Right.
What was that word,
Mass
Darwin?
attracting mass? Mass attracting mass?
Like a force.
What's mass?
This can and has been measured already in the 18th century. The gravitational acceleration caused
Where? Where was it measured? Does she mean Cavendish? Is that what she's talking about? I think she means
Well,
Cavendish.
I think she's referring to this supposed experiment that somebody took a pendulum or a weight or something, put it next to a mountain, and then see, it's attracted. It's a story that's out there.
by the
As a
ground
supposed
underneath
proof.
your feet has also local variations at constant altitude, just because in some places the density of the ground is higher than in others. So explaining gravity as a universal acceleration is in conflict with a lot of evidence. But can you instead just give the flat Earth a gravitational pull? No, that does not fit with evidence either.
For what? It's back to what I asked right at the start of the show. For what? Why do we need a gravitational anything? We don't. We recognise some things go down in air, some things go up in air, and some things remain neutral. Those rules all change when you change the medium. So for what purpose does this serve? Now, I've got nothing against Dell, but maybe I can appeal to him. What are you trying to achieve? what's in it for you by claiming the world moves up? Because as far as I can ascertain, it's either ignorance of how the world actually behaves, that is to say, not everything goes down for you to need to explain the world going up to meet it. Yeah? Now, if you haven't recognised that the world doesn't behave like that, then okay, fine. Maybe it's perfectly acceptable for us to point that out. But when my panel is saying, you need to look at this, Nathan, you need to take this seriously, specifically because, and I'm paraphrasing, Sabine Hosselenfelder will be taking a part based on what flat earthers, in quotes, think, with stereotyping fallacies. Now, on the one hand, I've already pointed out it's a stereotyping fallacy. I don't think this, and I can shout at her when she claims it, because I don't claim it, and she's saying I do. It's wrong, it's not true, it's a stereotyping fallacy, and I can point that out. But if my panel are correct, and suddenly there's a floodgate waiting to be opened with every single anti-flat earther out there saying, flat earthers think the world's moving up because Dell said so, or the Flat Earth Society said so, then maybe I'm wrong about my dismissal of it. But when you're literally in the thick of Sabine taking it apart as a stereotyping fallacy, it's hard not to recognise that maybe my panel have got a lot of truth in what they're saying, specifically Neil. Maybe I'm wrong to cast him down when I say, nah, this isn't serious. They're not in our face, proactively punting it here on Flat Earth Debate when we invite them to discuss the nature of the world. Dale's not come to us. Does that mean he's poisoning the rest of the Western world? That was my original justification. I say no. But here we are just responding to Sabine doing it. So, yeah, it's hard to know what to think.
I'll tell you what to think.
Well,
I'll tell you.
Can I say
It's,
something real
10th
quick?
first. 10th first. Then Brian, then
yeah,
Arwin.
it's
10th, go ahead.
yeah, it's full circle. Meaning, she's got everyone talking about gravity still, no matter where you are, and that's the reification of this argument. So, the Flat Earth Society, Dell, and then the Globers and the anti-flat earthers, they want gravity to be something at the end of the day. So when we on this show share that it's a nothing, it's made up, we're the only ones saying it's made up. Everybody else wants to make it a part of their argument so that still has some life. There is no life to gravity. There is no such thing. And this is what Sabine, if you just rewind what she just said, in the last 10 seconds or less than that, 5 seconds, flat earthers and gravity. What is the connection? There's no connection.
Is in conflict with a lot
earthers.
of evidence. But can you instead just give the flat earth a gravitational pull? No, that does not fit with evidence either. Because for a disk, the gravitational acceleration does not drop with 1 over r squared.
Yeah, see, this is the problem. This is what I was trying to get in, Nathan. She's trying to debunk flat earthers saying the Earth is moving up at 9.81 meters per second squared, which she's right to try and do. But she's trying to say, no, that's completely wrong. This is nonsense, right? But she's trying to make it not nonsense for her globe. And that's what this whole thing is about. So it doesn't, so nobody's going to go, well, flat earthers say that as well. So how do you know the Earth's not flat? She doesn't want to be hearing that. Einstein agrees with flat earthers. She doesn't want to be hearing with that, dealing with that. Do you know what I mean? So what she's trying to do is destroy the claims that the Earth is moving up as a flat disk. 1 second. She's trying to destroy the claims the Earth is moving up as a upward to whatever space as a flat disk, but while trying to also validating how it can happen on a sphere. Like it can't happen on a sphere. That's the whole point, and that's the absolute nonsense of his equivalence principle.
I see. So what you're saying is she's disseminating the equivalence principle, which in essence conjures not only the force of gravity, that's not a force, but you can think of as a force from Einsteinian or Newtonian, but also slips in the notion that there's a false dichotomy at play, where gravity is required by flat earthers. No, it isn't. A bit like you and your reference frames are ruined. I'm not making a claim in that regard, and I'm not making a claim about gravity, and I don't need to. That's why I'm so intrigued about why flat earthers are doing this. Shout out to James Richard, who says, the very foundation of a heliocentric world is nothing but fallacies. Or should I say lies? Depends who's applying them, James. Thanks for the super chat. Really appreciate the support.
1 second. Just 1 second. I'll be quick. No. If Einstein's equivalence principle is not stating there is a force, He's stating that the ground of a sphere is coming up to meet the object that's falling here in Ireland and in Australia simultaneously. But that time, the space-time is curving in around it as a kind of a restrictive force, right? And that's when they start convoluting with time dilation. I won't go into all that now, but that's the nonsense they have to go into to try and claim that the Earth is moving up to meet the object on a sphere. So you can drop something, I can drop something, and 10 man can drop something in 3 different parts of the world, and the Earth is moving up to meet them, but it's not expanding, right? Which is completely illogical, even from a fantasy point of view, because space-time is counteracting it. This is the nonsense and even that is wrong that contradicts something else it contradicts gravity well. But anyway, that's another point. Go on, Adam. Sorry.
All of this is trying to find a force, trying to find a reason for a natural law. Okay, it's trying to invoke a causation for a natural law, whether that's an upward accelerating Earth, gravity, be that Newtonian or Einsteinian, or electrostatic electroper and electrifer. Yeah,
Incoherent dielectric acceleration.
Yeah, thank you. Whatever the idea behind it, it's to stay with a Newtonian vision for why density and buoyancy would play out. And like I say, at heart, all of them invoke a force to describe these things.
Right. John summarised it earlier. They equivocate with the equivocation that I described, which is they're using something that is basically entropy, the arrow of time. So when I keep shouting at her about using time in different contexts, what is that in this context? It's entropy. So as I've mentioned many times, and Adam was one of the people who was actually there in this discussion, lots of greater minds than myself thrashed out what was the cause when we talk about, in the fondest sense, relative density disequilibrium, or what Adam just described as density and buoyancy, or they would describe as gravity, or Dell would describe as Earth moving up at 9.8 meters per second squared. Whichever it may be, what you're actually describing is entropy, the arrow of time. So how something moves through a different medium is a second order effect of entropy. Well, when we're talking about entropy, is that something that we can establish cause for, or ascribe gravity to, or ascribe the world moving up to? No, we cannot. The answer to that question lies in the ontological primitives, not in a force of gravity. Now, many people have asserted, and I agree with them, that gravity is God in the heliocentric model. It is because for nature to create everything and for their force to be the arbiter of almost everything in their model, it means that the start of everything came from gravity, their God, nature creating itself, violating the first law of thermodynamics, the laws of nature. And in this instance, the arrow which we cannot rewind to the beginning, we can only assert there was an external force or creator that started this process. We can say the arrow of time is described thus, and thus is the second law of thermodynamics. That's what we are detailing. Entropy. So we're not going to ascribe gravity to it. We're not going to ascribe Earth moving up at 9.8 meters per second to it. It's stupid.
That's a good point, by the way. That gravity, right? They just assume gravity was always there in their Big Bang idea. Like that's always there, and the matter's just responding to it. So they have no explanation as to why gravity is there. It's just assumed. It was always there.
Gravity is their God. But with that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, gifted memberships, hit the PayPal link, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on an after show. Another massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
the thing we were discussing yesterday, the acceleration that I want to get to is really the point that we're going to get laughed at. Okay, you've just laughed at the implications of using this relativity mathematics to describe it on a ball, because the ball can't expand outwards. But if we're going to use this to explain what we've described as a natural law by invoking a force, which is what Einstein's doing, the upward accelerating Earth, then it has implications, as we've said, and you have to abandon lots of other ways of describing how things and why things are moving. Common sense, like relative density motion, these things don't exist in their mathematics. But if you follow their maths to a kind of conclusion, it kind of becomes more nonsensical, and you see that it doesn't describe reality, and you can tell a difference between the two. The reason being that everybody's using acceleration. Now, two ways we can accelerate. We can stay at the same speed and change a direction. It could be classed as acceleration. We can keep the same direction and increase our speed at an accelerative rate. The claim in an upward moving Earth is that it's upward moving one direction. Therefore, the only way it can be described as an acceleration as is within gravity, which is 9.8 meters per second, but this way moving up. Now, in the other way of gravity invoked stuff, when we drop a cup, our start point is 0 and we accelerate at 9.8 down. When it gets there, whatever velocity it reaches at that rate of acceleration based on the drop, it reaches. And that's constant today, tomorrow, ever in that mathematics. That fits with reality in its description. But if we take the upward moving Earth as an example, it is an acceleration. So whatever speed I start at today when I drop the cup, the Earth will be moving at a faster speed because it's been accelerating for 24 hours when I drop it tomorrow. So there would be a speed difference to maintain an acceleration of 9.8. Consequence, if I drop and this is the point, if I drop a helium balloon, it won't go anywhere because there's no forces to act on it for it to move. It's just going to wait where it is until the Earth catches up. And it's the same with the coffee cup in theory. But if you follow some of the maths to a conclusion, then when I drop a helium balloon today, it will go up. When I drop it tomorrow, it will go up slower. This is the consequence of invoking acceleration. And it makes the whole thing wholly nonsensical. And also unable to describe other forces we experience because you take away the ability to do so because you claim the reason things are happening is the Earth is moving upwards at 9.8. That kind of disables it as a description of reality. I think I've done rambling there.
Yeah, I've addressed it a little bit. I'm glad you went into it in more detail, but I talked about that. Because we don't have the whole idea of orbits and the same speed but changing its vector. The only way you can invoke acceleration is to change speed. That's insane.
I talked
In
about
orbit.
it very elaborately on my show today for an hour. It's funny how you guys are stumbling upon the same things now. Because, if you're going to assume
Why
that,
are you self-promoting yourself again? I don't understand why you're doing this.
because I'd like you guys to actually follow my show for some time,
It's hard though, Arwen, when the previous day we've been trying to discuss it and he stars off. This was what we were all discussing yesterday. And we wanted to discuss it as a group, as a team. But sometimes your grumpy moods prevent that. And I'd ask you who'd want to join the show after you
I
raised
know, but
it
I
on the
was
desk today.
grumpy. I'm not grumpy now.
I'm just, yeah, but we don't know that because the last time we encountered you, you were a
I'm still
grumpy,
here.
miserable
The
git that
subject
was
came up,
being
and
rude
I'm
and
still
horrible
here.
to us. So you've got to comprehend, Arwen, just because your mind's changed, your actions have consequences. And it's getting a little bit repetitive. And I think all of us are a bit tired of it, mate. You don't need these arguments. Yeah. You don't need the stozzing. Don't need the, yeah. We're better than that. And it's only you that's doing it. We all have disagreements, but we're not storming off and then coming back the next day expecting what? It's not on, mate.
I'm not supposed to come back because I was in a bad
You're
mood.
not supposed to behave like a child and then come back expecting not have to have any consequence to your behavior, not to recognize it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Not to then come in and say, why aren't you guys
I
watching my show after I
apologize.
told you all to
I'm
fuck
sorry.
off
I didn't know
yesterday?
that my leaving because of my mood was such an impact on you guys. I genuinely apologize.
Of course it does. If I rage
I'm
quit
just
and
going back to
stormed out on
basics.
you,
Like,
I would.
I'm just going back to basics. Like, I seriously can't understand how people think. Like, if someone says a globe is moving up, that everything's hitting it in all directions. I mean, I know Brian mentioned it before, and I brought it up. But if a globe is moving, I mean, when I listen to this sort of stuff, I mean, we're pulling it apart. We're listening to that woman, whoever she was, and it just does not make sense to me. You can tell it's all contradictory. Are there people who are actually listening to her, who are in their brain understanding it on that level and thinking it's real? I mean, is that happening with a human being?
There are, mate. But the concern and the reason Brian raised it is, look, we can attack the ball model very easily on this, yeah, because it's laughable. And what the concern is that we're going to have flat earthers adopting this, and we've looked into the physics and off taking the physics as if they're thinking they can apply it, and it gives it some kind of explanation and to stuff. But it's just as laughable, yeah, if not more so, for a flat earther to be accepting Einsteinian postulates as a way to view reality is worse for us to take that than it is for us to just look at a baller and say, you're wrong.
I don't.
One deck. You rumpusing Adam.
But Adam, they can't be flat earthers, mate. If the Earth is fixed and stationary. What? So what? Sorry, mate. Sorry, Adam. My line's a bit bad.
No, you're right. I got your point. I understand that point. Don't think it's for me. I think LVA Paul was on Discord. You're not a flat earther. It's not for me to make that decision or make that accusation. Yeah. But if an argument's put out there, then us guys in Fed can review it, analyze it, just like we do everything else, and give a considered response. Doesn't make an indictment of any individual making those claims. And I don't want to make an indictment of any individual espousing these things. I don't really care who it is, what they're saying in terms of who's saying it. What I care is it a confused message is getting out there, and it's incumbent upon us to respond. And then it's also up to other people to make their own informed decisions once it's out there. Not for me to chase them and tell them this is wrong. People want to go and believe that, off you go. Make a considered view and make your own viewpoint. But please have a listen here, because we have considered it as well, and we think we've given a full considered response that may inform you.
One thing, the reason that lady, Sabine Hostetler, the reason that she is attacking, the reason she's attacking it,
I mean,
the reason she, hang on, I'm
if
speaking.
you're talking about the Earth moving up, there's no evidence.
Speaking, one deck.
Sorry,
he doesn't know you're speaking.
I'm rumpusing you
I don't
now,
know
man.
what's going on.
I don't think you can.
I don't think you can hear me.
Sorry, Kat.
Can you hear me speaking, one deck?
He's roboting really bad, as far as I can tell. Try dropping and rejoining one deck, because you're just a robot.
Are these flat earthers falling into this trap by trying to offer an alternative model as an answer? I know that we don't require that to prove something wrong, but is this the trap that they're falling into?
We just go back to Sabine Hasselfelder for a minute. I'm sorry that my microphone won't be great in this place. What she's doing, if you listen to her last statement, I think it was or close to the end of the video where we stopped, is she said it can't work for an upward rising flat earth because of blah 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 over or squared. So her actual argument against the nonsense of a flat earth rising straight up into the air is the or value. That's her actual and the use of that within mathematics. That's her actual. If you listen to it, that's what she said. And I was trying to come in and say it just before she actually said it. That's what her problem is that
Right.
Their model has an or. Their model, not your own model, but the claim that a flat earth is rising up doesn't have.
Well, can I burn it down very quickly? What you basically said is, yeah, it can't be upward accelerating because it's not a ball.
Yes, that's exactly what she said. In so many words, that's exactly what she said, and that's what because technically, if you take or away, then that's the bouncer. Do you know what I mean? Now, but she has nothing.
But that's the point, isn't it? We can laugh at them, like, because how stupid it is that they believe that, and how unrealistic, because you can't apply this to a ball. But it's the same applies to a flat earth. You can't use this physics to describe why the natural law of down exists. But that's what's trying to be done here. And it's just as laughable as a concept to explain it. Yeah. It's got no more validity than trying to do it on a ball.
So
the way in which
to interrupt Adam. So you just said why flat earthers have to explain why the natural law is down or something like that. Again, I'm glad you did it sort of flowingly without really thinking about it. So flat earthers are trying to explain natural law in the face of a necessity for a downward bias to keep people to a spinning ball in a sky vacuum. We're trying to explain, by contrast and false dichotomy, a natural law. I just want to make that clear, because that's probably the answer I was looking through the live show.
Well, it really boils down to this old dead-end question that is, why is up, up, and why is down, down? That's it.
According to Dell, it's none of that, and it cannot be just density. Trying to find more, searching around, making up little contraptions. You know, making up little what do we call that when they do a contraption?
Did you hear Ben say this?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Nathan just summarized. You guys missed it. Can you say that again, Nathan?
I heard it.
Then why go on?
Well, it's worth knowing what the motivation is. And while I was asking on the other shows, I'm trying to think why am I trying to figure out the motivation behind this? I don't normally question that. So in this instance, why is there a false dichotomy being set up and flat earthers buying the false dichotomy and arguing with the other side of the false dichotomy? Well, it's because the globe Earth has got a force that needs to be implied where there isn't anything actually happening to keep you on a flying, spinning water ball. By contrast, or in false dichotomy, flat earthers are trying to explain this because of natural law, which is already describing what's happening in the world we experience, and there's no positive assertion to be made by a flat earther or any necessity to explain natural law. But here we are arguing against someone who desperately needs a force to hold them on a water ball. Makes no sense.
I didn't need all that. Just say your final statement. What's the conclusion?
The conclusion is globers need a force holding them to a ball. Flat earthers are trying to explain natural law.
There it is. They're trying to explain natural law. It's already described. So they're looking for causes of natural laws, which is non sequitur and retarded. That's exactly.
Nathan brought that up, QE. I think with regards to entropy and that's this is the point. Why recognize what you're investigating? what it is, what you're trying to put a cause to, and that's my only criticism is the futility of it.
Yep. Or why? Or the question why, right? So why are my arms connected to my shoulders and not? Why am I not growing arms out of my earlobes? Can anyone
Why
answer
don't I
that?
walk on my arms and pick my nose with my legs? Because my arms would be called legs and my legs would be called arms then.
That's what it comes down to, right?
Well, it's more akin to the other example we give in Narnia. So, in this instance, it's why, for the ballers, Narnia being space, does the gas lamp work when there's no pipes running to it? So they need to come up with a mechanism to create the power for the light. Okay, so they need that because it's something that needs explaining in Narnia. Okay, so then you get, by contrast, flat earthers coming along going, I can explain why the gas lamp in Narnia works. Excuse me, we're not in Narnia. We don't need to explain it. We haven't got any necessity for a lamp to work in Narnia. But you're going to offer them up an explanation for them to take apart? What?
Yep. Why? So, in essence, if we could boil it down, then they're asking why for natural laws. They're specifically natural law, but it as a big picture, why natural laws is what they're asking. Why?
Why is what is?
Yeah.
That don't even make sense to try to put it in a sentence, does it?
Nope. That's what it
Yeah,
boils down to.
it's all about the cake,
Doesn't
isn't it?
this go on?
No, I said all of it boils down to that.
No, the other guy.
Oh.
All right, since he's not going on. Doesn't this all boil down to what's the cause? Obviously, and they don't want it to be God, but they want it to be gravity.
I don't know who they are. You'd have to identify they. That will change my answer.
Well, Nathan brought it up earlier in the show. They need G, gravity, and Arwen said it existed even before the Big Bang for them. So what exists before anything? God. He was self-existing. He wasn't created. So gravity is their self-existing, never created God.
You still didn't answer they, but I got it implicitly. They, you're talking about anti-flat earthers and globetards, correct?
Correct.
All right. Yes.
Well, anyone invoking gravity as the cause would be the day of everything.
But overall, everyone is asking why natural law.
Correct. No, I see your point.
Yep. In some facet or some slant.
So basic. So an example would be hot always goes to cold, but cold doesn't go to hot.
Yeah. Why?
It's natural law. It's just the way things are.
There's no such thing as cold. It doesn't exist.
All right, Adam.
Well,
Jeez.
cold can't flow anywhere, can it? If it doesn't exist, heat does. Heat can distribute itself, but something that's not got any heat, because that's what cold is. It's an absence of something. It's not something of itself.
Okay, a higher heat goes to a lower heat, Adam. Is that better?
Yeah. I've got no problem with hot going to cold in that sense. It will, yeah. But cold can't. What point I make is cold can't go anywhere.
Yeah, we already established that. Are you practicing the sleeping warrior? Tell them what you're gonna tell them. Tell them, then tell them what you already told them.
What did I tell him?
Cold doesn't exist.
There you go. See, and my point's been understood. That three palm slap. Love it. Well done, Tony.
Cold is the lack of heat, right? Heat is supposed to be molecular vibration, sort of, right? So yeah, cold is like a vacuum. It's like not pressure, not heat.
Not as much.
Are we going to really attempt to do the why is what is thing right now?
No, hopefully not.
I have a disagreement with Quantum Marissa.
That'll be your undoing.
My disagreement is this: that all of these people, including the gravity people, and anyone on their own side, they're not trying to explain natural law. They're trying to replace it. Because what you'll notice is they keep on having to come up with things, ideas, let's call them, colloquial theories, that get in the way or otherwise completely oppose natural law.
That
So
would still
rather
be
than it-
natural. That would still be natural law, by the way. The Earth rising or accelerating, that would still be a natural law, by the way.
But only if it was real.
Yeah, that's correct.
Because then you've got to explain why is the Earth rising. All you're giving yourself there is an excuse of a force. You've still not really answered anything. Why is the Earth rising? Why does hot go to cold? You still don't know anything. You just figured out a bit of mechanics.
Correct.
You can't prove it either way. Even like what causes it, you can't prove it because there is no way. You would have to escape the closed system that it would have to be in order to have gas pressure and accelerate up in what? You'd have to separate yourself. All those things are impossible, never going to be possible.
I can disprove it.
Never be proven.
I can disprove it, though, thereby
Disprove
proving
what?
the converse true.
Disprove what? There's
I
a
can disprove
misapprehension about something occurring that doesn't occur. Either something's falling because everything falls, or Earth moving up to meet everything that falls. You're like, you and Anthony Riley summarised this so beautifully in terms of the actual cause. The actual effect being studied when relative density disequilibrium was being debated about between Arwin and Sleeping Warrior. Right? Some things go up, some things go down, some things remain neutral. So where in that do you get Earth moving up? Okay, what about the stuff that's...
You don't.
Yeah, we can disprove it. Before I was interrupted, hold on, Arwin. Before I was interrupted, I said I could disprove it. You know how I can do that? Disprove the Earth rising up, rising Earthers. How would you suspect I could disprove that?
You've got no evidence for it.
Helium balloon.
A helium balloon. If I walk outside with a helium balloon and let it go, where does it go?
Yeah, it goes up.
It goes up, thereby crushing the Earth, accelerating or constant velocity up, whoever knows whichever direction.
No, it doesn't do that at all. Because
Yeah, it
it's a
does.
density axis thing.
No, Arwin.
It's the
This is
same
the
effect.
point that you've missed,
Oh my
mate.
God.
Yeah, but
I
this is
just
the point you need to listen
oh my
to, Arwin.
God. What's your rebuttal to my helium balloon going up?
QE, just
watch my shows and I'll explain
Arwin.
it.
Watch your shows. Yeah, why can't you just tell us?
Yeah, because I can't explain it here because I get rumpus to all hell from
No, because
multiple
for
sides
2
every
days,
time I
Arwin.
attempt something like that.
Arwin, 2 days we've been wanting you to hear this point, and you won't hear it, mate. For some reason, I don't know why.
Because he's emotionally attached to something?
I'm not making an assertion why you won't. I'm not giving cause.
Oh, that is the cause.
I'm
that
not
you can't
making
get anything
cause.
else.
I'm just asking Arwin to listen, because this was the point we were making in the show. This is the point of why it's terrible for us to engage in this, because it is nonsensical. As I said earlier, if you accept those physics as your causation, the Earth moving upward, there is no density and buoyancy. It cannot exist. It does not exist in this mathematical description of their reality. It's debunked. It's void as an acting force. RDD's gone. All that's there is an upward acceleration generated by the Earth going upwards, right? Impacting and those forces creating the other forces that would be the attributable cause of RDD, right? Which is why when John says, what happens when I let go of a helium balloon? In their world, it has to stay there until the ground catches up with it.
No, it doesn't.
Yes,
It does, Arwin.
Pushed away by the more dense parts that surround it because it is the cause of relative density. That is the idea of it. I don't ascribe to it being literal. I just
Darwin,
see it as a
you're now making up
mathematical
your
concept.
own version of this, which is what we're afraid of, that you hijack this part of this relativity, bastardize it into Darwinian relativity as if it's some acceptable concept. By turning it into what you've just done, it's no longer relativity. You've ascribed new forces, new mathematics that are not included. This is now Darwinian relativity you're describing.
Relativity. My ideas have nothing to do with relativity.
It's not an idea. It's just a load of waffle based on a nonsensical statement about relativity that's then, applied to an upward moving flat Earth. And for us to engage in it and give it any suck of any description, any humor it in any way by using our knowledge is just not becoming of us.
I don't know what I'm not ascribing to this relativity at all. I base my assertions on my experience with moving closed mediums, right? And what happens inside those closed mediums when you...
It's not you. It's
see, this is what happens.
Earthers claim, not your claim. The upward rising Earthers claim, Arwen.
I don't know. I don't know how the hell they're doing that.
That's
what they're
we're
doing.
talking about.
But yeah, I've been like addressing the subject for quite a while now, like 2 weeks, multiple times on my show. I try to insert some things here and there, but I don't know why the hell Dell draws his specific conclusions. They're kind of nonsensical.
Arwen, you're missing a main point here. Relative density and an upward rising Earth cannot coexist together, because relative density is something going down or something going up, right? You would agree, right? Depending on the medium and whatever the substance or object is. But there is no
density axis.
There is no down, right? When it comes to hang on, there is no down in the upward rising Earth paradigm based on the fact that the Earth is rising up. Down is only a perceptual thing. It's an apparent thing, but it's not. Things aren't actually going down. The Earth is actually rising up. So that means there is no density differential causing something to go down, because it's not going down. It's sitting stationary until it's sitting stationary until the Earth comes up to meet it. That's what's happening. And you, from a perception point of view, you think it's going down. So if there is no down and no reason for a down, then there is also no up. So you leave go of a helium balloon and a building brick. They both have to just sit in free space until the Earth comes up to meet them. There is no relative density within that paradigm. That's the point, because relative density is a down and an up. There is no down.
If there is no relative density within the concept, that is supposed to cause it from happening.
Do not get angry at me,
Brian. Sure.
Do not get angry at me. Right?
I'm
You're
not
happy
angry.
because I'm pointing
just
out something.
really disappointed. It's ridiculous.
He's telling you what the claims are from the other side, Arwen, not Brian's claims. The rising Earthers claim.
So are they saying there is no relative density?
Yes.
No.
That's not conflicting at all.
Adam
then.
just tried to explain this to you all. Bloody hell. They're mutually exclusive, right? So if you're going to claim that it's the gravity pulling things down, then that is your overriding force, cause of whatever it is you're claiming exists when it doesn't. The same thing applies if you've got the Earth moving upward. It doesn't suddenly lend itself to relative density. It's the replacement. That's the cause then. Now, if you're describing how something moves through a different medium, or justifying a density gradient, or doing an experiment where you can force a vector change, all of those things work within the principle described within the second law of thermodynamics. It doesn't work when you introduce an overriding cause of all of it. In this case, Earth moving up or gravity pulling things down, or Earth moving through a geodesic, equivalent to us moving up. It doesn't matter which one it is, they're all the overriding cause of that description of how things just occur always, because it's a law of nature. not something that's been through the scientific method, not something that's going to ever have a ascribable cause. And it pains me to say it because I was there too. And I'm not saying it to be derogatory, but I was like, to the greater minds than myself, I keep mentioning, why can't we put it through the scientific method? It's an effect that's described in the second law of thermodynamics. So why can't we ascribe cause? Because you end up at the ontological primitives. But when you're trying to introduce a cause when the one's not necessary, if you're a flat earther, or ascribe one because you've got a bloody world spinning through a vacuum, that becomes the starting point. It's not suddenly, well, I'll incorporate this with a load of other actual explanations for how the world works. Well, how? That's not what you've described as the cause of it. You've got the Earth moving up now. Not you, not anybody on the panel, the globe, whatever we're going to call them. Pizza pie flying up Earthers.
You're it.
I don't know what
it's
much more simple than that. It's not more complicated. It's the presupposition that can never be tested. It's just like if you were assume light to be a wave, which it isn't, then
it can be
ether,
tested.
right? It's a presuppositional. Jesus,
you're wrong, Alvin, because you're wrong. You're wrong, and this is what we're trying to talk to you about.
We already debunked it. What the fuck?
Oh, can we hold on a second?
Hang on 1 second, John, please. Just a second. I'll be quick. The problem that people have with this upward rising Earth claim is they keep on trying to add in things like relative density to it because they don't understand the implications of their own claim. They're making a claim that they won't understand the implications of, and they're trying to add in reality into something that's a complete farcical thing. And Arwen, I'm sorry, but you're doing the same thing.
But hold on a sec. I just want to, because there's a lot quicker way to kill it. And Quantum Eraser, when we went through it yesterday, killed it in the first 5 seconds because they're trying to figure out the cause of why everything falls down. Is that what we observe?
But that's not, no.
Yes.
No. They're trying to, no, that's not what they're trying to do.
So everything falls down, Arwen.
And things go up, but they want to know why down and why up.
You said yes.
Yeah, things, but not gas.
That's things.
That's gas.
It's still a thing.
Oh, okay, Mr. Shouty Shout. Yeah, I fell for your little trick. I fell for the trick.
Over your dumb ass.
Fell for the trick. Yeah, I said it.
He said everything.
Yeah, not all things go down. Yeah, thanks.
You just agreed that everything goes
I'm
down.
supposed to sit through and come back every day.
Does everything go down? Does everything go down?
No.
You just said yes a few seconds ago.
Yeah, but not gas. Objects.
He didn't. He said everything goes down, but some things don't go down, the things that go up. So everything goes down, except for the things that don't go down. Other than that, everything goes down.
I'll say it again. The problem is people don't understand the implications of this claim. So they're trying to add in reality, which is relative density, to try and then trying to explain how relative density could work within this crazy paradigm. It can't. It can't exist. Weight doesn't exist. Relative density doesn't exist. None of that exists within this paradigm that they're putting forward. But they don't understand that. Sorry, Kiwi.
No.
Brian,
yeah, they're trying to get rid of everything, including relative density. Yes, that's what I'm getting. Listen, I haven't heard somebody come out and make a cogent claim, so I'm just speculating on what other people have told me.
Well, I did hear Dale say that he's trying to explain why everything falls down. That was his initial first 5 seconds of the video. He said that. And so he's trying to explain it.
If you want to do that, John, let them, right? But when they postulate something like they postulated, which is used relativity for an upward moving Earth, we'll address it like we have done. And we'll point out, as Nathan succinctly summarized, yeah, he gets the point. You can't invoke a worldview and then have this as the overriding reason for how everything works and then ignore that because it don't work in this situation and employ density and buoyancy through a completely different mechanism, the mechanism of reality.
Right.
What I was getting to is he's trying to explain a phenomenon that we don't experience. Like, where do you go with that?
Yes, correct. You don't go anywhere.
So you can like prove relative density, can't you? You can show that in experiments, but no no one can show the Earth moving up. What are you even talking about? This shark.
I
Well,
don't
the
know
fact
what they're
that
talking about. I'm trying. I don't get it. But I guess that the Dell crowd and with the upward moving flat earthers, that they're all messing up with this big time. So I'm with you on that.
Well, one deck just killed it. You can prove relative density in a scientific experiment. That's the end of that. That means relative density exists, which means it's provable, testable, repeatable. Do you know what I mean?
Sorry, just hate to do it. Sorry to cut you off. No. You can. The phenomena when you say relative density, it's incomplete. So some things go up, some things go down, some things remain neutral. Why is that? That's the phenomena that you're observing, right? Well, when you're describing what causes that, you're talking about vector change, an induced effect, something falling, something going up, something happening. So what causes that? Well, that's the disequilibrium aspect. So when Adam says RDD as an abbreviation, it's the disequilibrium that you're explaining with the science. So the induced vector change in the egg when you change the density of the medium is the effect, right? Why is it going up? Why is that happening? Why is that the effect? Well, that's the disequilibrium. So if you just say relative density, I hate to be pedantic, but there we go.
Yeah, but the point is, right, I know you might want me to be more precise about what I say, but the overriding point is that we can prove why the egg rises, right? And we can prove it's due to relative density. By adding density to the liquid, to the water, the egg rises. By removing it, the egg goes down. That means the fact that that is provable means that the Earth rising up is debunked. That's the point.
Yes.
Look, the Earth isn't moving up, is it? Come on.
Well,
It's
no.
absolutely.
See, that's
absolutely,
accepting that.
It's absolutely satanic.
That is a tacit acceptance debunking. But why would you need to claim the Earth is rising up? What are you trying to explain by saying that?
Exactly.
And you're
That
trying
everything
to,
goes down.
To explain.
exactly. You
Two
got it,
things.
John.
Well, yeah, that everything goes down, which it doesn't, and further to that, explaining the natural law of second law of thermodynamics, which isn't necessary.
You're trying to postulate a cause for natural law. Yeah.
Correct. That's secondary. Well, it might be primary. Who knows? We got to hear the damn claim come from the horse's mouth, whoever the horse is.
Neil said that Dell is going to be on flat size tonight, so we might get more out of that.
So is Dell the horse?
Yeah, he's the leading force behind this. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
You say force then, Brian?
Yeah, I did say force, just as a way of describing that.
I'm only joking.
I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it. Who is Dell and who cares?
It's a QE's boy.
Yeah. So I had a man crush on Dell for many years. What? You going to blame me for that?
No, hang on a second. I'm going to answer tense. No, that's like wait. Look, it's we can all like different parts of people's personalities, right? But tense. I don't know if you were listening at the start or if you were here. The reason that this should be taken more serious is because I can be a baller and I can show a different acceleration rate for two different objects dropped at two different elevations. And that debunks the claim of an upward rising Earth. Even if they're trying to say it's accelerating up, that is easily debunked by just showing that tomorrow things won't be falling faster from 2 foot up above the surface than today. The point is that if they're trying to claim the Earth is moving up at a constant rate, as a baller, right, on a documentary where on Netflix where everyone could see, I can debunk this absolutely nonsense claim using using Charles Vernon Boy's 9.81 meters per second square calculation and a force of G, and prove gravity to a load of people who don't know what it is. As far as they're concerned, it's proven, right? And debunk a load of flat earthers, making us look worse. That's why it's dangerous, and that's why. One second, hang on. Sorry, just
you already said 1 second before.
No, yeah, but this is the crescendo point.
No,
right. This is the crescendo point. That's why the Flat Earth Society claim this, because it's so easily debunked. Not really debunked, but debunked by heliocentric force of gravity claims.
So
Finished.
Let me summarize, 10th. Brian is protecting himself from being stereotyped as a flat earther with supposed flat earthers dumb shit.
Yeah, and he answered it properly, and I agree with him. But that wasn't the reason I asked it. I asked, "Who is Dell, and why should I?"
I just told you.
No,
I
know,
just
but
told you that that he's protecting himself. Brian is from claims from knucklehead flat earthers, so he won't be stereotyped with them.
I agree.
So
no, I agree. I agree. But the reason I'm saying it will come in the conclusion of my sentence. It's like, what do we ask from everybody? Show me the proof. What do you got? So I don't care if he's a flat earther. I don't care if it's the guys that we had to deal with earlier, Whitsitt, Jaron, Dave Weiss, Bob Nodell. It doesn't matter. You're claiming something, show it. Who are you? Who cares? Unless you got proof. I only care if you got proof.
Yeah, that's but you asked why. And
I know, but that was just the way I'm structuring the statement, that I don't care who you are. I don't care who you are. You could be a 6-year-old kid. You got proof, I like it. But if you don't got proof, I don't care who you are.
Oh, we know that. Yes. But why? I already told you. Now you know.
No,
why.
I got you. No, I think it's important to address it. I think it's stupidity.
Can
Okay.
I
Now,
lighten the
is that
mood?
why, Brian? Can you confirm what I just said?
Can Adam lighten the mood?
What you just said to 10th man?
Yeah, what I said to 10th man. You're gonna debunk it before they can stereotype fallacy you to death as a numpty flat earther.
Yes, on its face, but there's a deeper thing there. And
What's
the deeper thing is that this claim can be attached to all of us and make it onto a documentary that is.
Yeah, I know. I just said that. That's what I just said.
That's what you just said.
Okay, but the point I make it's not just personal.
Well, I know that.
Yeah.
Oh,
But,
God.
yeah.
No,
it is
I meant
personal
you
as well.
as the royal you, as actual flat earthers. So, sorry.
Okay, I apologize. Sorry.
Is there anything royal from Ireland?
Potato trees.
Hey, Brian. Love at you.
Right, just to make you smile then. I know a while back, and I've seen it a couple of times on Twitter now. Welcome to Flat Earth, Dave Triangles McKeegan. People are using the phrase on Twitter. I'm getting quite a few followers, Nathan. The tweeting and sharing the show. I've had a number of people follow me that are all flat earthers and watching the show. So
I've got to give props to Brian in that regard, right? Because it's always something that comes at the spur of the moment, and it's something that flows off the tongue naturally, like it did with Brian. He's like, Dave Triangles McKeegan's really put his foot in it this time, but it was just so natural.
There was no
Triangles McKeegan now. We gonna add the Dave in there to make it complete.
The triangles.
I think I do quite like just Triangles McKeegan. I've got to be honest.
But if you say Dave, then you're specifically talking to him, because there's a lot of people call him McKeegan, surname. But if it's Dave Triangles McKeegan, then it's definitely Dave McKeegan.
Yes, I agree.
I also consider calling him 180 degrees McKeegan.
That's just to keep it straight, right?
No, to keep triangles.
This should
But I mean,
go.
as a guys, as a flat earther, I tend to think like you believe the Earth is flat and stationary. So stationary is not moving. Yeah. So I don't know how these flat earthers are bringing a moving Earth into the situation. It's a flat, stationary Earth, not moving.
It's not a belief.
Indeed. I should also point out, I'm glad you piped up one deck because you got basically 0 credit, given it was you that actually cornered Dave Triangles McKeegan into that position. No one else should really take any credit, given it was you that did it. So, yeah, props to one deck. Shit, I forgot to give him props. I'm not on mute. Shit.
Yeah, but he didn't come up with the name.
No, I didn't. I'm still
Brian
getting
thought
cronies.
about it 2 weeks ago before he did.
I'm still getting cronies messaging me now. Like, they're still messaging me now over that. Unbelievable.
He's got a man crush on you.
You should put McToon and Dave Triangle McKeegan together with the navigation and the triangles.
They can't let it go. They keep on when you point out something that's complete that they can't deny, or they say something that obviously is contradictory to their claims. They just can't let it go. They just, for months, if it takes, they'll continually want to keep on bringing it up and asking you questions about it because they can't handle. Paul Jitsu.
No, you took you took their teddy bear away from them, and they want it to be reality.
No, they're going to stop punches with their faces. It's continuous ball jitsu. So, can I get an answer for this one? And this shout out to Adam is with the upward rising earthers. Is the Earth rising at is it at a constant velocity or is it accelerating? Does anyone know?
They don't. They don't know. I've heard.
I didn't hear you, Brian. One deck. Hold on, Brian. Go ahead.
Sorry, mate. All right, mate.
Yeah, I've heard the term accelerating used. I haven't heard the term constant velocity, but I've heard it just being referenced as an upward rising Earth without constant velocity or acceleration being used. So it's not clear what their claim is, to be honest with you. Other than the Earth is rising up, that's the only part of their claim that I know is for definite.
Relativity, right? That's what they're invoking here, right? So acceleration is acceleration. Whichever way you're perceiving it, it doesn't matter. It's 9.8 meters per second per second. It's not 9.8 meters per second. It's an acceleration.
So what you're saying is that they're saying it's an acceleration.
That's how it's described. That's what's seen in reality, an acceleration, isn't it? Right?
Yes.
So if we're going to invoke relativity, then it's just which position the acceleration's occurring, but it's still an acceleration. As I said, but if you're going with old school gravity down, then at the point of release, the initial speed is 0, and you accelerate at 9.8 from 0. But with relativity, if the Earth's always accelerating up, it's either not accelerating up and on a changing direction, which would be it, or the only other way to describe it as an acceleration has to be as an acceleration as we understand it. So an increase in velocity with respect to time.
That's speed.
Yeah, but as an so that it is accelerating, so its speed is always increasing. Just like the thing when you drop it, its speed is increasing, but when you drop it, it starts at 0. If I drop my cup today, and then I drop my cup tomorrow, the starting speeds are very different.
So you're sure you're just saying by proxy or by default, that's what they must be saying, but you haven't heard anyone say it.
If they're saying it's a constant speed, then it's not an acceleration unless they're changing direction. And they're saying it's going upwards. So it's not, I'm saying it's by default.
That's what I said, by default or by proxy. Okay.
As I
They are
said,
gonna,
I haven't.
they're going to have to show evidence for this, aren't they? They're going to have to show us some evidence for this claim.
They have to start understanding their claim first and the implications of what they're claiming before they can even go to the point of coming up with what could be called evidence. If they're claiming a constant velocity upwards, then that's debunkable by the fact that there is different acceleration rates downward, right? If they're claiming an acceleration rate upward, then that is debunkable by the fact that the acceleration rate from the same elevation won't change from day to day.
Well, that's interesting.
I've got a question. I've got a question. If the Earth is supposedly accelerating upwards, wouldn't that mean that Earth is moving out of the solar system, out of the galaxy? I mean, I don't understand.
No,
If it's
everything
moving
is.
upwards.
Everything is. You would just have to account for the additional volume of their fairy tale space. No, hold on. Now, hold on. I just thought about that. That sounded pretty fucking stupid.
Well, an acceleration can also be described as a change in vector.
Yeah, we're not. Yeah, we already
that
said that.
sounds stupid. Yeah.
We already said that, John. We know what acceleration is. That doesn't have anything to do with his point. Hold on a second. Everything is rising. What's it rising up into?
These are all the questions I asked.
It's an inertial frame, John. Everything is rising up into an inertial frame.
Into an inertial. What's that inertial frame?
An area that gas isn't occupying.
So an area other than the universe?
Yes.
Wouldn't be the universe would have to be rising up? Everything would have to be rising up, correct?
Leave me alone.
Leave me alone. Correct,
You see,
Brian.
Sorry, John. Go on.
Is
Sorry,
that no? I'm asking you. Is that correct for their whoever they are, who they're claiming? I guess it's Dell. Everything is rising up. That's including the Earth, Sun, Moon, stars, space, which is a concept. Like what and height are all moving up. Am I correct in this?
I haven't heard him claim that. I spoke with someone about it, and why I asked that question, the answer was like, everything was be moving up at the same time. There's no answer for that. And if we go into that, we're going into what if this is, how would that work within, you know what I mean? I think I could say the Earth is moving up, and you could say, what about the sun? I could say, yeah, it's moving up with it. And you can't, that's not disproving the Earth is moving up, if you understand. It's nonsense.
I'm not sure.
But we don't know
sure
what the sky is, so anyone can make a claim about it. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm not sure if anybody suggested this or asked this, but anybody thought about bringing Dell on the show, in Discord, inviting him to let him explain it instead of us speculating, so we can hear from the horse's mouth how much of a dumbass they sound.
Tonight.
Huh?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
It's going to be on flat sides tonight.
Fact is, it would mean, I've never heard the sun moving upwards. Never heard that. So it's crazy.
Yeah, but it's implicit. It's by proxy, right?
Yeah, it has to within that paradigm.
It would have to, or it would leave the sun behind a long time ago.
It's insane.
The problem with all that is, what? I just said it was insane. Yeah, the problem with all that is that nobody knows what the sky is. Nobody knows what the sun is. So you can start making any crazy claim about it, and I can't debunk it because I don't know what the sun is. If you understand what I mean. Like when we're talking about,
but then there's no point there. But there's no point accepting.
To know that it's moving or not moving.
Yeah.
There's no point in accepting their claims unless you can verify it. So if you can't verify it, you have to stand neutral there. You can't accept their claims without verification.
This is where we've got to be careful, guys, because this is why we've got to cut it off at the knees, as we said, with just the helium boom straight away to demonstrate that this is a nonsensical description of the physics and the way they're trying to invoke it. If you don't, then you wander off into these things. Well, that means the sun, you'd leave the sun. Well, I can make up as much fantastical bollocks as I want. I can stick myself in a snow globe with the sun in the firmament. All of that's moving up magically at the same thing. And that gives a way out. And it's just a complete distraction. This is destroyed and cut off at the legs, because if you let go of a helium balloon, it should stay there, because that's the only thing that's
got a
described.
choir. Who the hell are you talking to?
What?
Also, Adam. Also, guys,
You're
all you
preaching
got
to
to do
the
is cover
choir.
a drone.
Remember hold
Just
on a
cover
second.
drone.
Remember I
Sorry,
went and
mate.
brushed my teeth? Holy shit. You're preaching to the choir, Adam.
I was just readdressing the point. We've got to be careful of not going off into that. Just cut it off at the legs.
Okay.
Otherwise,
Fair
you
enough.
open them up to allow stuff like that. I can just
Fair
make
enough.
stuff up. Yeah.
That's the
Fair
point I
enough.
was saying.
I
Why don't we
just
just
wanted to
have Dell
know
get on here and explain it so we can get him
holy
documented on
shit.
recording, pretty much, burying
Let's
himself
jump right into the
and burying his
conversation,
soul.
why don't you? Go
He
ahead.
was
You might as well finish now.
You're transforming, QE.
What the?
Not for us, he's not D-Rose. Adam and Kiwi were talking, and I don't know if you heard him, D-Rose, but you started talking in the middle of them.
I was just going over the contingent necessary facts for everything to fold up into, but Adam, you're exactly correct. How about that? I'm done.
Yeah, I weren't disagreeing with you. I was just reiterating, and then that's the point. Your first observation is based on the physics, yeah, and that's sufficient, because that's the point you've got to prove, that the initial concept, the initial starting point, does not allow for things that we just witness in reality. Never mind having to explain what the sun might be doing in this fanciful world. You can't
That's an implication, though, right? Correct? We don't need to go down that road. We can just kill it with the helium balloon.
Yeah, totally.
I hate to say this, but to kill it with the helium balloon, you must get the person to the point of understanding that within their claim, relative density can't exist, right? Because the helium balloon, the answer I got to that was that the air being pushed up by the Earth is pushing the helium balloon up. And if that's good enough for someone to start believing, right? If that's good enough for someone to step over that cognitive line, then that's what they'll go with. So that completely debunks it. There's no way around it, but they have to understand that first. I think.
What if?
Now, I hate to say. I hate. Well, please, just let me go through this. I hate to say this, but the change in impact rate for something being dropped at different elevations due to due to the object having different acceleration rates. I hate to say it, but that is actually, in my opinion, the best destruction of it. Now you can show it in other ways.
It's a good destruction now, but it's not the best. They're equal footing.
Is it okay to speak?
Yeah, I can see to that. Yeah, it's good. It's not the only. It's not the only. 1 second, please. Don't put me under pressure. Right, give me a second. Right, because I can't stand that when I try to say something and someone else keeps on wanting to say something. I just feel pressure. I can debunk it in many ways with fall rates and rise rates that can't work within that paradigm. I'm going to shut up.
No,
you're still describing the physics, Brian. The point you're making is getting the person to understand that the physics can't deal with that, and that's the same point. However you get them to grasp that, it doesn't really matter, as long as that's the point you're making, not going off and into Narnia and dealing with it that way.
So what you're saying is we have to make sure that they understand their claim?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Oh, Tom.
Good luck, guys.
I have another question. I have another question that's quite interesting.
Hold on, Kent wanted to say something.
No, let him go.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Let him go. No, you go. Go ahead.
All right, cheers. Yeah, I've got another question. Apparently, NASA's planning to go back to the moon 2025. First female, first man of color. they're looking for water, south pole of the moon, yeah? The question I have is it possible that the moon can have water frozen? It's nearer to the sun than the Earth. It's 4 times supposedly smaller than the Earth. So shouldn't it be that it should absorb more of the heat sooner and not have water that's
it's in a fairy
flowing?
tale vacuum. No, that's debunked with their fairy tale vacuum claim. So no, we're not chasing that one. 10th.
Thanks. I'm just trying to debunk it because it's impossible is the answer. Correct.
Yeah, no, the medium's impossible. That's how you debunk it. 10th.
Yeah, I'm trying to load a
Right,
picture.
yeah, because right, the medium is impossible.
All right, hang on 1 second. Master D, picture coming up.
Well, you have to make sure Nathan's here.
Oh, he's here. I'll start talking football. He'll show up faster than speed of light.
No, if you start talking cars or computers, he'll be here in a moment.
Yeah. All right, I got the picture, Master D.
That's good. No one from Discord can see it.
Explain this.
Well, that's my point.
I know. I just gave you.
Oh, you just gave me my evidence. Thank you. Not Brian's evidence, mind you, mine.
No, this is yours. Brian didn't want me to talk, so he lost the race. So you get it.
He lost his evidence. Okay.
I've seen this so many times where I used to live. The wine country was there, and the businesses that gave people rides on hot air balloons would be everywhere, and they'd be going up, and you see them at different levels to each other relative to the ground. And if the Earth was rising at 9.8 meters per second, how is this picture possible?
You also could have shown an airplane attempting to take off.
Yes.
That's going to be a bit difficult.
Well, I couldn't do that because the airplane they got was flying backwards 400 miles an hour.
You know what I bet they'll say? They'll say, what are the cargo on each hot air balloon? How many people? Is there 13 on one? Maybe there's 4 on the other, and maybe the weight of the hot air balloon makes the difference. They're gonna weasel their way with an answer on it.
What color is it? Right?
Exactly.
Well, what's the claim that there's no more relative density and they're stationary and the Earth is coming to meet it? That's the claim.
Don't try to get it back on point. We need to know what this. Hold on. Don't try to get it back on point. We need to know what this rubber smells like first.
Now 10th, we have to make sure they understand their claim first. We can't assume that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, what is the claim? Let's get that, and then let's attribute this picture to it.
At present, the only thing that you can say for definite they're claiming is that the Earth is rising up. Whether anything else connect other than that, I can't say for definite is their claim.
Me neither. Yeah, we can't do it. Not till we hear it.
What is Einstein's claim of the Earth rising up?
Einstein's claim is that all things sit in free space and the Earth comes up to meet them. That's his equivalence principle. That's what Sabine Hasselfelder was trying to explain earlier in the video. So if you leave go of 2 things, the Earth comes up to meet them.
Right.
So there is no relative density.
Right, but you've shown that if you let go of something 1 foot above the ground, only the handle of the coffee cup might break. But if you let go of it from 20 feet above the ground, the whole thing's going to shatter. So the proximity and the dispersion rate of the material is evidence that's not happening.
Yeah, but if you think about what Einstein was doing, he was getting everyone into a conceptual mind frame where things falling is it's only how you perceive it. If you look at it from a different way, the Earth could be rising up. So it's all, and that's what he needed to get his relativity accepted. He needed people to be looking at things sideways and upside down and thinking they were thinking outside the box when really all he was doing was fooling them. I mean, what's his number one? What's his number one thing that he says throughout his time that has been quoted many times? What's the word he uses so much?
Imagination.
Exactly.
Well, exactly my point. So if you want to get people from talking about reality, you take them to the Einstein world of imagination. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. Was space and time rising also?
What's that?
I'm asking Brian. In Einstein's imagination, was space and time, sun, moon, everything else, ether, was it all rising up too, or just the Earth?
Well, just the Earth for the object, because he was pre-assuming that other people pre-assume that there's a downward bias and everything falls down. So he didn't address anything going up. He only addressed objects going down.
So we're back to the Earth is spinning, but I don't sense it. Nonsense.
It's like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. It's like Neil deGrasse Tyson, that one video that we covered where he's got the big window behind him overlooking a cityscape, and he's talking to somebody, and he says, "We are moving at this speed right now." And I laugh every time I watch that. I go, "What a crock!" I mean, it's like who's going to believe that?
Well, something that people should know about Einstein's relativity model is that within that model, in heliocentric space, light, time, and gravitational waves all move at an equal rate. That's the easiest way to start getting someone to understand it. Because gravitational waves...
Define gravitational waves.
Gravitational waves are what LIGO, the LIGO stations are claiming to measure. They are ripples through space-time caused by the uneven distribution of mass curving
ripples through space-time. Here on Earth, the LIGO station could detect that?
From 1.3 billion years ago.
Oh, even in the past.
That's what they're claiming, that they detected some years
Wait a minute,
ago.
you gotta say, I've never heard this. Wait a minute. The LIGO, L-I-G-O, is claiming what
LIGO.
Again? Just summarize it. What are they claiming?
LIGO and NASA are claiming that the LIGO stations, after an overhaul, because I only read this in the past few days, overhaul that happened between 2010 and 2014, within a day or whatever of the stations getting an overhaul, they detected gravitational waves from two black holes colliding together 1.3 billion years ago.
Oh my goodness. This might top everything right now.
The arrogance of the claim is sickening. The arrogance of it. I mean, come on, folks.
It's worse than that, because you've kind of accepted, Brian, that interferometry is now a gravity wave detector in some way.
Yeah. Ring laser gyros are detecting gravity waves.
Aren't waves supposed to go through a medium?
Yeah.
What's the medium?
A vacuum.
The only ripple I ever detect. The only ripple I ever remember detecting was a bad party in the 70s.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's wrong, QB. I skipped the wrong answer. The medium is space-time. Sorry, that was the wrong answer. The medium is space-time. Special relativity.
A medium has to be physical.
Well, space is a description and time is a concept. So if you can amalgamate them together and physicalize them in your own imagination, then I have nothing.
Because we're back to the ether again.
Yeah, it's there, but you can't detect it, see it, measure it, or find any evidence.
You measure the effects of it, but you can't measure it directly, right?
I can't even say yes to that.
I remember someone saying, right now, the scientific method, it doesn't prove anything. But in the future, we think it will prove ether. What? Remember that?
Can't use the scientific, but that's nonsensical too, because the scientific method doesn't prove or disprove what's in is.
No, I know.
First, you have to establish something. Now, once you establish that something exists, now your next claim If it causes something, now you can go into the scientific method.
That was that fourth person on our Witzit, Jaron, Bob debates, the fourth person who was talking. Yeah, right now we can't, but we will in the future. But it'll be through the scientific method, but we can't do it right now. While all along, assuming it's happening right now.
Well, it's non sequitur because they're already presuming it exists first. Like I said, you have to establish that something exists. Then, and only then, if you make a claim of cause of that thing you just established as existing, then you might be able to science.
Yes. Yeah. That's. And I think the opposite of that is what I'm bringing attention to. Is he's saying it does exist? I can't prove it, and the scientific method doesn't prove things. But one day in the future, the scientific method will prove this. So it's just like
I heard you the first 3 times. It's still terrible.
It's
That's
a
the whole
to the
point.
future fallacy, Kent.
That's the
Yeah,
whole-
and a non sequitur.
And I don't like your dog now, but I'll like him in the future.
Yeah, because what they're stating is in the future, ether will be proven to exist, and then it will be proven through scientific method that ether causes all these things. That's what they're
Right.
claiming within that.
Right.
Yeah.
But now watch this. So do you believe the scientific method is viable? No.
There you go. So even if they did do it, it wouldn't be any good because they even state themselves it's no good to them.
10th man, did you say 10th man, I'll believe in your invisible dog, not now, but maybe later? Or did you say the dog?
No, that dog doesn't hunt.
We can't prove the invisible dog with the scientific method yet, but one day there will be a method that is scientific that proves the invisible dog. What's wrong with that stupid shit? I'm oh my gosh.
Well, I got bitten, and it must be the invisible dog that bit me.
The problem is when you discuss it with these people, they'll bring in Schrodinger's cat.
And then the dog goes wild.
And then the whole conversation gets littered with nonsense.
And a
Sounds like you
Kumu
boys
virus
are
would,
tuckering out.
and a Kumu virus would set out a pan of water and a bowl of food and start stroking the air, saying, "Good boy." Y'all see him? Good boy. Can't see him now, but one day, scientifically, I'm going to prove it to you. Good boy.
Well, does it leave any shedding of hair or anything, or is it invisible too?
Well, yeah, the shedding of its hair is what causes natural laws to happen, Kent.
He'll need one of those
Always hate
leashes.
them.
He'll need one of those rigid leashes that look like you're walking a dog. That'll be a prop that he'll use as well.
I think my next dog I get, I'm going to call it Space Time. Just so I could start conversations.
I feel like we're all playing hot potato because we don't want to be the last one to speak. You know what I'm saying?
No, think about it. If
Brian's
you have a
already
dog
quit.
named,
Did you notice? He's run off, so he can't
yeah,
be
it's
in.
all right. He's tinkering. If we start talking football, he'll be right back, but I'm not going to do it. Adam, if you were walking your dog and you say, "Come here, Space Time," you don't think people will start talking to you?
Only NASA geeks.
Perfect.
Call him Newton.
Newton.
Then the conversation would get to what, you don't think your dog exists?
You can't be 100% sure that he exists.
Right. You can't be certain about anything, and you can be certain of that, boys. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
They'll just say the dog doesn't exist in this dimension, but it exists in the fifth dimension. That's why you can't see it. You'll see it next week when the fifth dimension transitions.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm totally following you, D-Rose. So you got the leash that exists in the fourth dimension, but the dog is in the fifth, so you can't see him, but he's at the end of the leash.
Well, no. The leash is in the third dimension. That's why you can feel it and touch it. The dog's in the fourth. Transition
Okay,
to the
that's
fifth.
fine. That works better. I thought you said fourth initially. All right, yeah, that's exactly what it is.
But next Thursday.
How about? Hang on.
I guarantee
How about the turd with the plastic bag I got to pick up? What dimension is that existent?
Okay. Are we going into absurdum?
No. Think about it. If you just go picking up droppings, and they say, "What are you doing?" And they say, "My dog just dropped something here." What dog? Well, he's in the fourth dimension. I'm sorry. The leash you can't see is in the fourth dimension. The dog you can't see because he's in the fifth. But the turd is here in the third, so I got to pick it up.
I think he must be looking for the show to get in, right?
Well, I don't know. I walk my dog all the time. I could just imagine doing that without a dog and a leash, and people would say, "Are you a baller? What are you? What's wrong with you?"
You left your dog behind when you went in your time machine. You forgot to take him with you.
No, I'm seriously going to use this as an example. It's if you believe this nonsense of all these dimensions, that's a perfect way to describe it to somebody.
No, if you come up with a medium and you build a mathematical model around that medium, and you have no evidence for this medium existing, but you get people to understand how it would exist in correlation to your maths, then you get them to see how these effects here and here might be due to that medium.
Yeah.
You'll go down in history.
Ether.
No, it's all mathematical. It's all mathematical, Brian. It's not real. It's just that's the whole point. They'll say, "Yeah, this is you're crazy. What are you up to?" I go, "No, it's all mathematical, but that's what you believe about Earth."
But this is all the same thing, isn't it? Sorry,
But
Neil,
what if you're looking at that man with the imaginary leash and imaginary dog, and then you literally see poop come out of the air and drop on the floor?
Well, then that would be real. I'd like to see that. I'd like to observe that.
Hang on. Let's get away from invisible dogs, right?
No,
Although
man.
what we're talking about is just as ridiculous.
Dog
Black hole.
You're a dog hater.
The point is that all of these things, whether they come from the globe side or from the flat earth side, they're always things that aren't in existence in reality. Why do people need to do that? Why do people need to make claims that involve things that do not adhere to reality? Like, why does anyone
reality?
Because they want to explain things that they can't. And they want the explanation anyway. So they conjure something in order to explain those things that they can't understand.
That's one way.
I agree. I like that, Arn. That's great.
That's one way, Arwen, if you're a follower. But at the inception, they're fighting reality. At the inception, they don't want to accept reality because reality would mean something else to them. Instead of G, it might be God. Instead of, this love of spheres in the heavens, and you think you're going to become What? What'd you say?
Yeah, well,
I'm sorry. 10th
I
man,
said
you
it
made a
said
good
it's
point.
based on the
You said the word
multi-entities.
inception.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, at the inception, it's the lie is being propagated for the first time. Down the road, you got the Greeks and everybody else pushing it. Now we got NASA pushing it. But let's go back to the inception. What is reality showing you? It's not showing you a spinning Earth. What
You
the
nailed the
angle
10th man.
measurements show you?
I know you all saw the movie Inception. When did these things occur that was unrealistic? When they were put under sleep. It's all in their minds. They just couldn't differentiate the audience watching the movie as the characters try to exemplify that they couldn't differentiate reality from the inception. So that is all of the programming to make people think that, you can live in another dimension just by going to sleep and it's a realistic experience. That's what they're intertwining together. That was the movie Inception was telling us about. But they
No,
only
that's
did
a
it when they
good
were
point.
asleep.
That's a good point you bring up, except they were asleep. Here, you're telling wake people to act like they're asleep.
BBC, I'm pretty sure it was the BBC. I've heard SE Montreal speak about this once or twice. The BBC, and I remember something about this some years ago, gave a load of people the impression that they were going to be going to space. So much so that they started thinking that they were on their way to space or something.
Space
Not
Cadets.
ridiculous.
It was Channel 5.
Was it Channel 5? And they had people in there as part of the group who were there just to put down anyone who was saying, I don't know if this is real, to give explanations as to why this and that. I say, oh no, I'd say it's just this and that, acting as if they were also thinking they were going to space, when the reality was they were part of the scam. So people actually did believe that they were going to space, and it was only a joke.
Can I say something off topic real quick? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Okay, so all right, you got the Dells and everybody doing that, but let's give credit to Face Reality. He took everything QE said and put it into a video so he understands. So let's give credit to those guys that do understand what's being promoted here.
So what are you saying?
That
But you got some
completely
people-
changed the whole tone of what we're talking about.
Well, I was up in the attic. I was in an attic, so I didn't hear anything you said.
All right, so you just came in and just started a completely different
Of
conversation
course.
out of nowhere.
All I'm saying is let's give credit to Face Reality, who did an excellent video on the things that QE promotes and what we
Okay,
talk
hey,
about
Neil,
here. That's all.
did the
Go
Earth
back.
come?
I'm going in the attic.
Hang on. Did the Earth come up to meet you in the attic, or did you come down?
I don't know, but I was shut out. I didn't hear a word anybody was saying.
That's a pretty left fielder, right? Yeah, I haven't seen Face Reality's video. I've heard people say it's good, so I don't know. I'm not going to go by what other people say. So if he did do a good video, then shout out to that. Shout out to him. But what were we talking about?
The thing on the BBC about people thinking they actually went somewhere.
Channel 5, Space Cadets.
I mean, yeah, Channel 5.
Actually, I know that. I can help you there. It's called, hang on, it's called Boldly Going Nowhere by, it was done in 2005. It was billed as the most expensive TV hoax in TV history. £5 million, $4.5 million back in 2005. I'm going to post it for you right now. Give me a chance.
Boldly Going Nowhere. Sorry, Nathan.
Oh, please put this in Master D, because this would be great.
But it could be the same thing that happened to the astronauts. Right? They think they're going somewhere, but they're in a simulation.
No, they're just liars.
No, they got wires. They got wires on them, Neil.
No, I don't think the people in the ISS are on a reality TV show.
Well, they are, but like all reality TV shows, it's not real and it's scripted and it's all fake. Well, the same is true for the ISS. So it is a reality TV show in the respect that it's all scripted and fake.
How can you validate that?
Easy. They got a green screen behind them. Why would they take that?
Were
Yeah,
you
Nathan
there?
clarified that. Nathan clarified that for me because I had made that benefit of the doubt probability when I said, well, maybe they were putting some MK Ultra thing and thought they really went somewhere or was given some type of hallucinogen. And he made it clear. He
So,
said no because
okay,
they were
so
on stage with harnesses on them, so they were cognizant. Yeah,
okay, so we're
they
going to
knew what they
take
were
the
doing.
word. Hold on, we're going to take the word of a failed actor and delivery boy. Is that what you're telling me? Just because he starts a YouTube channel, I have to believe that instead of these guys could be getting duped. I mean, come on, it's not out of the ordinary. People
Why
get
can't
duped
you?
all the time.
Why can't you believe that they're just lying?
Why can't you just go back up into the attic like I said you were going to?
And with that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams. Hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!